To Savannah,
Yeah,
okay.
I think we start in Hilton Head and then we end in Savannah. And fly back.
Here we go.
We're doing four nights in Hilton Head and 3 in Savannah.
I mean, it's like real close.
Seeing as it's 7:30, I'd like to call this Thursday, March 22nd, 2018 meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Thank you. Tonight we'll be following the published and posted agenda. Will be recorded for future viewing and recorded for viewing live by Chelmsford Telemedia. If anyone else in the audience is recording, please say so now. Hearing none. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes. So we have one set of minutes from last week, the
March 15th.
15th.
I
Thank
make a
you.
motion that we accept the minutes of March 15th as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. I didn't have a chance to read them. All right. Moving right along. Presentation and update of Roberts Field Advisory Committee. With us tonight, we have Bill Askenberg, the chair, and I believe you're Marcus Bush, the vice chair.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. We saw, I guess it was a couple meetings ago where we saw that there was a discussion moving forward with the Springtown meeting, and there was some discussion about the process that we'd gone through last. So I'm glad you guys were open to us coming and speaking and sort of giving you a quick update as to what we've been doing since Fall Town meeting.
All right.
So with that being said, we've been busy. We have working with the Department of Public Works, we have hired a playground designer and builder, O'Brien and Sons. They're a landscape contractor, really solid firm, does really great work and has been doing great work in New England for a really long time. They've been in business for almost 100 years, I think it's been, yeah. So they were around when Ben Franklin was coming down the slides. We've also been busy finishing up getting public input for the new playground. We hosted a online survey and got some good information from both open-ended and just regular questions about what kinds of equipment and surfaces people wanted to see at the playground. We had over 500 responses to that, so we felt like that was a really good sampling. We also conducted a My Dream Playground drawing entry where kids and adults, I should say, designed their dream playgrounds, and we've had over 100 entries for that, and those are currently at the library on display in the main hall of the library. We finalized with the Department of Public Works, we finalized the playground design this past week. The equipment's been ordered, and we're on track to have a grand opening of the playground on June 23rd of this summer.
Wow.
So it's gonna be a fast clip,
That's
but
great,
it's come together well.
Great.
We'll talk a little bit about our fundraising efforts as well after we go through some quick slides about how the playground's going to look. And with that, I will move forward. So this is the overall design of the playground, and the playground really has sort of a park within a park design. The red brick pathway, the existing red brick pathway is on the upper right, and then you can see that everything else is moved in there. And the difference between this playground design and the old playground design is things are sort of satellited out, and we have this walking track around the inside. So what it does is it really pushes the playground equipment off into different areas, and then keeps the lines of sight open and allows for us to create two main areas of play: a 2 to 5-year-old area, which is the area to the right over there, and then a 5 to 12 area, which is the lower section down there. And then in addition, we've added swing areas, and then also a zip line, and then a climbing area as well. In the center of the playground, we'll have a shade structure, and that'll have handicap accessible permanent tables in it.
Okay.
And then in all of the different play areas, there are accessible surfaces, poured-in-place rubber surfaces to allow access to the equipment, and there's also equipment there that will serve a variety of people with different abilities.
Okay.
The pinkish brownish surfaces, that's wood chips, and the blue is the poured-in-place materials.
Okay.
So we tried to create a playground where We didn't cover the whole thing in poured in place rubber because the problem with doing that is that it would create a maintenance problem 10 years from now. That stuff wears down pretty quickly. But we tried to find the balance of having the access, having the inclusion, and having the equipment while, weighing that with the long-term maintenance needs as well.
How often do you have to replace the wood chips?
The wood chips will be topped off, at least, it'll be a systematic topping off of it. And that's something we have to discuss with the DPW. They'll be in charge of making sure that that's all raked out. The wood fiber is an ADA compliant surface, but what happens a lot with the wood fiber is that like under swings, when it gets kicked, it ruts out.
Yeah.
And then it becomes not so ADA compliant
Right.
anymore. So we have to work with the Department of Public Works and Facilities to understand what their program's gonna be. That's gonna be one of our discussions coming up.
And do they replace it entirely at a certain point, or they just, like you said, top it off?
Top it off.
Okay.
So at least once a year, there'll be a top off on that. What'll probably need to happen too is that it'll need to be raked out at times as well
To level it.
To level those ruts.
Okay.
Can I just ask you? 'Cause
Yes.
I'm really, where's the parking lot? And what am I, like, which way is which?
So do you know where the existing the
Yep.
existing engraved brick pathway is now? No? Okay. So the upper and lower parking lot are gonna be off the screen to the right
Okay,
and bottom. So
That's where Old Westwood Road is. So if Old Westwood Road's gonna be on the right
It's
side
going
of the
over there.
screen.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Exactly. And then the area out here is close to where the existing baseball fields are now. So
The lower part.
the lower part,
Okay.
correct. So what ended up happening is we kind of, we spread it out
Yeah.
and kind of shifted things out some and then
got it.
oriented around the trees.
Okay.
Now, there's gonna be a covered bridge entryway, looks like on the side of the park now instead of the front of the park.
So the existing covered bridge didn't make it through.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
So we do have a volunteer that's offered to reconstruct it and lead that whole charge. So the idea there is that we would have the covered bridge at the main entrance of the playground. So now
Okay.
the thought is that the main entrance is going to be more in the center of the park versus sort of tucked over on the side where it's.
No, I
been.
understand, yeah.
Right. And then we've got a signage plan as well that'll have a signage kiosk close by as well with donor names and rules and stories, those kinds of things.
Have any Eagle Scouts approached you?
Yes, actually Eagle Scouts and Girl Scouts.
And Girl Scouts, that
Yeah,
was my
so
next question.
we're gonna be mining a lot of that.
Good.
And the path that you said, there's a walking path that goes around? Does it go fully around?
I'll show you a picture in a second
Okay.
of the whole.
Sorry,
the
I
whole-
didn't mean to
okay,
jump
the whole
ahead.
thing, but there's a walking path on the inside
I
of
see
the
that,
playground. And then there'll be perimeter fencing, so there'll be, four entryways. There'll be, two lower that'll open up into the interior of the park. There's one that's where the existing pathway is now, and then over on the, left-hand side, there'll be a double gate that'll allow, the DPW to get mowers in.
Oh,
And
okay.
for maintenance and stuff, and those will be closed. But there won't be any fences, there won't be any gates except for that
That
double
one,
gate
okay.
there.
Okay.
So these are renderings of the actual equipment. That's a zip line, a zip cruise it's
Oh.
called. It's a really cool thing, and the nice thing about it is that there's two bays. There's one that has a pedestal swing that kids can hold on to on a string and a kind of a round seat. And the other side, there is a seat in it, so kids that have issues with postulation can actually ride in the seat, and they're doing it side by side. So it's that whole idea of inclusion.
Yeah, that's great.
The 5 to 12 main area is off to the right there. It's got the larger, tall structure. There's 4 slides that come off of that. There's a twist slide, which is a big request from the kids in my dream playground. There's a sharp L slide that comes off the top that'll be fun. And then there's also a roller slide for kids that have cochlear ear implants. If they take traditional plastic slides down, it usually creates some sort of a static charge. So the roller slide is something they can use without getting that static charge.
Oh, good.
There's also the climbing structure off to the side. It's sort of a rope structure, and it's sort of a free-form thing. There's not like one way to get up to the top of that. You kind of have to work your way around it, and that's got poured in place underneath it, so wheelchairs can kind of get right up to it and get into the mix there as well. There's also, and I'll show you a different picture in a second, but there's also the
Sway saw.
Sway Fund.
Sway Fund,
Sway
yes.
Fund. So it's on a ramp, and it allows at least 2 wheelchairs to get into it, and then a number of other kids to get into it as well. And it kind of rocks back and forth. So it's an actual structure that will allow kids in wheelchairs to participate with their kids as well. And then the swing bank is on the other side. There's 6 swings on the right-hand side. There's 2 seated swings on the blue poured in place. And then the swing on the far left is called a friendship swing. And it's a relatively new swing for playgrounds, but it allows kids and parents to sit. The swing is mounted on a thing where they actually sit facing each other. So there's good eye contact between them, and they swing back
Oh,
and
we used to have
forth.
that when we were kids.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and there's been studies that have said that the eye contact is really
Yeah.
a big thing now, so that's kind of a nice fit.
That's
for
really neat.
friendship park.
Does it use that, you know, the ones we had when we were kids, use sort of like that perpetual motion where you move together?
I think so,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and it's got a nice formed back, so kids
Yeah.
that have issues with, you know, needing the postulation support will be able to ride in it as well, and then parents can ride in it with their kids and.
So like a
have
modified
face-to-face.
sawhorse type,
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's really cool. I like that.
So this is looking at it from the other side, so on the right is the friendship swing, facing the main 5 to 12 area. You can start to see a little bit of the 2 to 5 area. Skip over to, that's the 5 to 12 area. There's the Sway Fund that I was talking about, where kids can roll up into it. And there's all kinds of panels and things and activities that are going on as well, so there's a lot in this playground. And there's climbing things you can see on the sides to get to and from.
In front of the swings, is that was that a dig, like a sandboxy kind of thing?
There's a sandy digging area. So we've got the old playground had the sand area in the back, and it was sort of an afterthought. This has got it right in the middle, and the idea is that a parent could sit in the shady area, see their child in the
Yeah.
sandy digging spot, see another kid over in the 2 to 5, or see somebody in the 5 to 12. So it's kind of, you know.
Yeah. I like that.
That's
Open line of
awesome.
sight, yeah.
And we also we don't have the budget for it now, but we're hoping to raise the money for it to put in 2 permanent diggers. One in the interior of the sandbox, you know, one of those things that kids get in that they dig.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then one that a kid could actually roll up to that would be off of the pathway.
Oh, that's great.
And the pathway is going to be constructed out of concrete, unless we raise enough money with our brick campaign, and then we'll be some
It'll
bricks
be all
there
bricks,
as
yeah.
well.
I'd love to fill with all bricks.
Yeah. So this is the 5 to 12. You can see the Sway Fund, the big long slide. There's 2 smaller slides there, the climbing areas, and then the netted area over in the side there too. And then the ramp getting up to the Sway Fund.
Those spider things are cool.
This is the 2 to 5 area. So there's a roundabout, which is, some people call them merry-go-rounds, but they're the spinning things. And they have fitted backs. So someone that has postulation issues can be transferred out of a chair and into that and have that postulation support.
Doesn't look nearly as dangerous as the ones we used to be on.
Right.
Yeah,
I think it's a little
yeah.
different. I think there's a little speed control there
Yeah.
too.
That's a shame.
I know.
Sort of a scaled down version of the 5 to 12 structure there with a couple of slides and climbing areas and stepping stones, balance beams that are look natural. There's a rocking thing on a spring that kind of rocks back and forth there, station. And then the house. The house was a big thing. Kids and parents both wanted some little sort of cozy place that kids could go to, kind of have a little bit of independence but still be safe. And that's kind of what that little house area is. So this is just some of the close-ups of some of the equipment that's going in. That's the zip cruise. You can see the postulation support seat, the pedestal swing, some of the climbing things. There's the little house that we talked about, a close-up of the Sway Fund. There's the netting thing that I mentioned. And then the roller slide, which I think is going to be a real popular thing as well. And then the roundabout. And this is how it all fits into the existing site plan. So you can see where the parking lot is on the top, and that's Old Westford Road, and sort of how we've expanded out the playground there.
Are there any issues with the ball fields in terms of, balls ending up in the playground area?
There could be. One of the changes that the master plan has recommended is that we switch the orientation of the baseball fields and the lacrosse field. So the lacrosse field now is in the front of the park, and the baseball fields are in the back. So what we'll have to do is on the lacrosse field, there'll have to be a big net put in place, kind of like what they have at McCarthy. They have a net behind the end zone there of the that leads
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So that'll stop the balls. And then also you'll have the fence line as well for the playground, so that should take care of those issues. It's a good thought, it's my thought as well. And the DPW is working with both baseball and lacrosse to make sure that the construction schedule fits with their seasons. So that's all been
Now, will
talked
there be
about.
any seating with,
The ball
for
fields?
The ball fields?
Yeah, fold-out chairs.
Okay, I'm just wondering, just asking, because I saw something over here, but I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
well,
what
so what we've talked about, and what was identified in the master plan was that the ball fields, because they're primarily used for the under 11
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Leagues, they don't need really that much outfield, so they'll actually won't look as big as they look here. It'll primarily be just the dugouts and the backstops. And the dugouts will stop before or at the third baseline, so that'll be pretty much it. And then baseball, Chelmsford Youth Baseball wanted a dugout close by, so that in the lower left-hand corner, you can kind of see a little piece of red there, that's their storage equipment place.
You meant
Okay.
spectator seating, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, she meant spectators.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
spectators.
spectators.
Yeah, so fold-out chairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Jim
Yeah,
answered that
fold-out
question.
chairs.
Bring your own.
Come on.
Yeah.
You have young kids, you know how it works.
No, I do.
She was hoping.
I'm just hoping, because there are grandparents that like to come
And
and,
then you can bring the chairs for them.
yes,
Yeah, there you go.
There are bleachers that are there now, I just don't know if that's gonna carry over,
Yeah.
and how there's still gonna have to be some tweaking on after the playground's put in place, on how the fields and the walking track is gonna fit in.
so this is the whole walking track around it, I have it up on this all around.
Yes. and
That
that's
helps.
That's about a third of a mile all the way around, so 3 times around should get you about a mile. We tried a couple of different variations to try and get a half mile out of it, but we couldn't do it, so it's as much as we could squeeze out
Is
of
that
it.
like paved or with the bricks or?
Granite, crusher fines path, so a crushed granite path that'll allow, it's permeable, so the water won't pool, and it's not concrete and not asphalt. So it still kind of has that natural look to it. And if it gets ruts and divots and stuff, the DPW can surface it as needed.
But it won't be repaving of walkways.
No, but it's just better for older folks. If
A
they're
little
trying.
springier,
Yeah, they're not like going on the grass trying to cross over.
right.
You know, people who have like crutches and stuff.
And the master plan actually calls for additional, we have exercise stations that were installed at Roberts 3 or 4 years ago, I believe, by an Eagle Scout project. And we actually have plans for adding to that, so there'll
Okay.
be more stations added to the walking trail as well, if we're successful.
Excellent.
Now, Bill, when you were here last time, there was some conversation about, facilities, lavatories, et cetera.
Yes.
What's been the decision for that?
So where we netted out on that was that we would have porta potties, and that the porta potties would be located sort of in the upper parking lot corner there, closer to the playground. Right now, they're over by the fire station.
Yeah.
but
Right.
Now they'll be located closer to the playground, sort of where the.
Where that little 45-degree angle of a path is?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so right in that area. And the plan is to put the 2 porta potties there, at least one handicap size. And then cover that with some sort of a shade structure. And then have a seat there as well that would allow for like changing diapers and that kind of thing. And then obviously a garbage can too. So it was kind of a compromise because we went into it thinking that we would try to build something more permanent, but just after we went through the whole process with the police and just the water and everything else, it just wasn't viable. It was gonna create a lot of maintenance issues and a lot of safety concerns. So the best of both worlds is to have the porta potties.
And what kind of
Change
a,
pressure, yeah.
right, what kind of a cost going forward does that pose? Because they're gonna have to be,
Yeah,
well, it's
but
not.
much less than trying to maintain.
No, I understand, I was
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah, I think the cost, we have,
we have them there most of the year anyway.
right now,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so it's the same type of stuff that's
Yeah,
already
yeah,
there? Oh, okay.
And I
okay.
think it's like $50 a month or so. It's relatively low
Yeah.
money, especially considering if we were gonna build a
Oh,
tower
yeah, no, that would be,
Yeah, that would be a little different, yeah.
that would have to stay heated and then, have somebody actually go out to shut it off and open it up and that kind of thing, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
How big is the footprint of the playground? I mean, roughly, if you know.
Yeah, you know what?
I know we talked about it
I've got it.
extensively in the fall. Yeah, I'm trying to remember myself. It's definitely bigger than it currently
It's
is.
3 times the size of the current footprint right now.
Right.
I don't know what that is in square feet or yards or anything like that, but
I can look it up and get back to you.
Just curious, that's
It's
fine.
3 times larger, but it's also a different kind of approach
Yeah.
because we had everything kind of compacted into one thing. And the problem with that was that if you were on a butter side of the playground and your kid was on the other side, you couldn't see him. You know, and so we tried to kind of spread it out and make it more friendlier line of sight.
and a lot of people wanted more green space too, right? And right now, currently, there really wasn't anywhere like to have a picnic or sit down, and so this allows for that, so.
I think it was 0.66 acres, but I'll have to check.
That sounds right. It was like 0.3, there was 0.2 to 0.6, something like that. What was the
Something,
update?
yeah. And this is just our milestones, so we're like I said, we're on track to have the grand opening June 23rd. We should have site prep work going on in May, and then our community build is scheduled tentatively for June 2nd and June 3rd. And then we've been busy doing fundraising as well, as Marcus was going to cover up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing a lot of different things, right? And I was asked when we came up to get the funding for this, you know, what are we going to do about fundraising and how are we going to help contribute back to it? And so we took this very seriously. And one of the things we did first was look at reinstating that Buy a Brick campaign, because it was very successful back in, I think it was, 95 when the original plan was put in. And so far, I think we've had 78 bricks sold.
We're up to about 114 now.
114, and that was, so 78 was like a week ago, so that's great. So we're making really good progress, but we need to get the word out more, and to let everybody know about this is available. Like we said, we'd love to have enough bricks to cover the whole walkway in the interior, which would take probably, about 600 bricks, give or take?
Well, to do the, no, it'd take more than that.
More than, wow. 600 hit our goal of 25,000. That's what we're shooting for from the Buy a Brick campaign, is to hit $25,000.
I think actually one of your slides gives the actual breakdown.
Right.
Yeah.
It does, yeah, I believe so, yeah. And so the other piece, what we're looking at was grant writing, right? And so Adele on our team is looking at some grants that we can do. We're shooting a goal there of about $25,000 as well. A little bit slow to the progress. We have a few options out there, I believe, but we're still working on that. And then the other part is sponsorships, either be from local individuals, small businesses, large corporations. And so we built out a GoFundMe page for that, which incorporates different levels of packages. So we have a platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. Bronze being the smallest at $500, probably more for like small businesses or anybody, right? We wanted to have an entry point. And then the larger ones were for the bigger companies in town. And there's also the ability to sponsor equipment. And so we have some large ticket equipments like the slide or the sway fun, right, which people can donate. Or if they want to do something smaller like a park bench, we can do that as well. And so all those options are going to be posted on the site and also available through the GoFundMe page. Now, the nice part about the GoFundMe page, too, is we can take the donations right through there. So if somebody wants to donate $20 or $10, we can do that. Or if they want to donate $10,000, we can do that, too, right? Which would be fantastic. That's what we want. If somebody wants something a little more formal, we can provide that as well. So there's a way to reach out to us on the site. And then I think that's pretty much everything that we're doing for the volunteer, right? I think for the corporate side and the sponsorships, we're shooting for a goal of $50,000. So all in all, we're looking at raising about $100,000 as of right now.
And we'll have merchandising. We've had a volunteer that's offered branding support. Some of the logos and things that we've created, we're going to be selling merchandising. We're also going to have restaurant flyers and a lot of the typical stuff you see
That was my
around
next question,
kinds
yeah.
of fundraisers.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing those things as well.
Okay. So I know one of the questions, and what kind of spurred this whole discussion was the CPF coming before us and talking about the funding that was received and the discussion that happened in fall about some sort of contribution back. Where's that conversation now, and where do you see that going?
So we've had good conversations amongst, well, first off, the Friends of Roberts Field are now a fully nonprofit
Excellent.
recognized organization. So we've gotten the approval.
501c3?
Yes, so
Okay.
we've gotten the approval from the IRS for that, so we're all set there.
Perfect.
We've had very good conversations with the town on sort of how we're going to structure things. I think where we are now, we have to discuss this as a board, but I think what we're going to net out is that when we take significant donations from different companies, we'll take that donation with a memorandum of understanding of how that money's to be spent. And then we'll basically put that into our account and then write the town a check with another memorandum of understanding saying this is how that money should be spent. And that'll go into a donation revolving account on the town side with that understanding. Maybe it's a memo or whatever, the understanding of how it should be spent. And as I understand it, the town would then apply invoices against that donation account. And then after the project is finished, there'll be a reconciliation of how much extra CPF funds are available because of those monies being spent out of the donation account. Depending on how much money there is, if there's a $50,000 or less amount, I believe that the Board of Selectmen can take a vote and authorize that money to be allocated back. If it's over that amount, I believe that it's going to require a town meeting vote. So either way, I think there's discussions along that, and I think that's where we're moving forward on.
Now, for your playground sponsorships, especially for the higher level ones, what do the companies get? Do they get some sort of advertising? Do they get like sponsored by,
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're going to have a signage at the playground, and so this part of that signage is going to be recognizing the sponsors. And so if you are gold, platinum, or you sponsor a piece of equipment, your name will be listed or your company will be listed there.
Okay. And then you said as well on your website, more individuals can do something like part of, go in on part of a piece of equipment or a park bench. Would that also have, I know you see in some parks, like the bench says, donated by or something. Would you have those sorts of things as well?
Yeah, I don't
For
think
the
right now we're
private
putting any
citizens?
signage on the equipment itself.
No, but I mean, if somebody did
Yeah.
like a park bench or something like that.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like a NASCAR where,
No, I'm not saying, the children aren't going to
Oh,
be.
it could, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna knock it, but.
Right.
No, but I didn't know if people got together, say, an organization in town that wasn't actually a business
Right.
and wanted to,
Kind of co-sponsor a piece of
a
equipment.
piece of, or like you said, a bench or
Right.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
was
one
gonna
of the
say,
picnic
one-
tables or.
Yeah, the one thing that I think it's the Girl Scout troops are doing, the buddy bench, right? So they're building or
benches.
creating a buddy bench,
Oh,
right? Which is really, it's a place where kids who doesn't have someone to play with can sit down, and if somebody else has anyone to play with, they can see that they're sitting there and they can be like, oh, be my buddy, and we'll go have fun together. And so
Buddy
that's
buddies.
kind of right. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Oh, yeah, no, well, that's one of the things, but I meant, like, if sometimes you go to parks.
I think you're talking about like, where you have, sometimes go to a park and you see a bench that's been dedicated by.
Right, those sorts of things. I didn't know if you were gonna have that type of stuff there.
We talked about possibly doing that and possibly doing bricks close by, but that might signify who paid for what. But I think likely what's going to happen is we're going to have a sign in the front that says, we'll have a section that's going to be for
I think
equipment.
that makes it
Right.
cleaner,
Yeah,
easier.
I agree. I was just curious how it was
We'll
gonna
have
happen.
the equipment and then the names of the people that would do it. And if we've got
I think, Paul, you're saying like the turf fields.
Some of the turf field.
Right, yeah,
Right.
nice.
So we haven't fully vetted that out yet, but that's at least where the thinking is now. I
But
think
I think it's just good
You're
for
pretty
people to
far
know.
along.
Yeah.
Quite
Especially
frankly,
if they're
yeah.
watching at home, although I'm not sure with the debates, but, if they're watching, if they
No one's
are
watching
watching
us
at
right
home, it's
now, no.
always nice for, especially business owners, to see, that beyond doing good in the community, they get a little bit.
The recognition, right? And
Yes.
to be honest, there will also be recognition beyond the signage because, of course, they'll be recognized on the website, right? And on the Facebook page. So there'll be some social media recognition there.
That's good.
So
Good.
good PR.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I think that answers the questions that we had when the CPF came in. I think that's fantastic that you're able to do that and you're moving forward in that direction. I think everyone should go and take a look and buy a brick.
How much are the bricks? Can you tell everyone?
Yeah, so 4x8s are $50 and 8x8 is $100.
And that's just the matter of how much writing you can put on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So a 4x8 has 3 lines of text, and an 8x8 has 6 lines of text, so it's double the amount. And if you go to Friends of Roberts Field / buy a brick, you can actually access an online brick buying page. That
You can
will-
lay it out.
It lays out the words, because a lot of times it's kind of hard to fit certain words in here and there. So it does that for you, and you can pay with a credit card or with a check. So you can go either
Excellent.
way there, so.
That's fantastic.
And I also wanted to point out too that we're hard at work now on creating a database of Chelmsford businesses and organizations to start copying, and we've gotten good support from a lot of different people in town who are willing to sort of make some of those calls for us. So we're actively looking for people who might want to be open to taking 3, 4, or 5 different companies on our list to maybe make a call and just sort of say, this is what we're trying to do, and if they would be interested. So if you guys know of anybody who might be interested in making those phone calls?
Is it a wink, wink, nudge, nudge?
I kind of get that feeling, don't
It's a
you?
little more than that.
Are you gonna post it? Like, will it be on your website? So like, if I, like, say, like, I can go look and say, oh, I know someone who works there, let me call them, right? Like, if you
Exactly.
happen to know someone,
That's exactly right. So what we'll do is we'll have a Google Docs section, and anybody that's agreed to help us make these phone calls, they'll have access to the database. They can run through the database. They can tag a name if they know somebody there. And then, you know, 3 or 4 names would be great. I mean, that's a huge thing. And then add in some notes there on what you've heard and spoken to them, really with the objective of just trying to set the meeting to talk to them. So,
Great.
Okay.
Thanks very much, guys.
sure, thank you
I
very
can't
much.
wait to see it.
Either.
Yes, we're very excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I hate to do this right before you go. For the community build day, when will you be, how will you be structuring that, when you'll be asking for volunteers?
So we're starting to build the database now, but we probably, I would say that when we get into the late April, early May, when they start actually doing the site prep, I think we'll have a firmer grip on the construction timeline.
Okay.
So probably, I would say probably late April, early May, and we'll definitely get some information out there.
All right, excellent.
Great, thanks.
All right.
Great question.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda,
On my
this
computer.
night, because we're voting, I've scheduled 2 sections of public comment before and after. So we have our first section of public comment, if anyone else in the public would like to speak.
We're just watching.
You're just watching?
This one,
All right, okay, well, moving right along then. We have our discussion and vote, and I'm going to vote recommendations on the fiscal year 19 budget and warrant articles for spring town meeting. So for the two new members of our committee, the way we usually do this is we try to knock it all out in one night, and I think we will be able to do that tonight. If there isn't anything too heavily controversial, I don't think, on this set of warrant articles. We've had all of our meetings and all of our liaison assignments have been completed. We've had a chance to review and to discuss when people have come here and asked questions. And I know, David, one of your concerns was you're not being here a couple of nights. Have you had a chance to look at those meetings? And
I have.
Fantastic. So if you feel comfortable, like I said, if you don't feel comfortable, you can certainly abstain, but on any votes, what we'll do is someone will make a motion regarding a certain warrant article. I'll call for that. I'll have a second, and then we'll discuss and have our vote. So that'll be the format, and we'll go
Excuse me,
through.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Do we have the most current warrant?
Yes, that's the.
We
I know things have changed since the last one we
we
got.
do. It's been published and posted.
Articles there.
Oh, these are the numbers. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I got the.
Thank you.
Very nice
Yeah.
person, thank you.
So,
Because I know some of the numbers have changed since the last time
numbers.
we talked, right?
yeah, so it's, some of the numbers have changed, but the budget overall is we vote budget up and down and stuff like that. So, actually, whoever will be,
I don't mind doing it.
I know you don't. That's what I figured. I was counting on that,
I
Kathy.
wanna go find.
I saw you peeking at me.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, here we go.
All right, so, article number 1 is a report of towns and town officers and committees. We never take action on that, so that was a no action.
I make,
Then Article 2 is funding of collective bargaining agreements.
and,
I believe, has there been any action on that?
We're expecting an award tomorrow on the firefighters arbitration. That obviously will get put out and then brought to town meeting, so I guess my sense is we'll bring it to you when you're available to meet, but we obviously don't have it for tonight.
Yeah.
so should we?
We'll take no action on this currently, and we'll probably have a quick and dirty meeting the night of the first part of town meeting on April 30th. Not unusual.
There's a couple others that have that same.
Mm-hmm. Article number 3 is to amend the FY18 operating budget.
Said to be determined the amount, so should we take that up in the pre-town town meeting as well?
Yeah, we're still working on that, okay.
Yeah, but obviously, we're still assembling snow and ice and some few other.
Really?
So, we'll get out to you in dance over the night of town meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
You'll see it, as soon as that comes together.
okay.
That's typically one that gets voted in.
Look at this, we're building our agenda for April 30th.
Can I just take a minute, because I just want to pull these up so I'm following along, because I have the old ones. Where is it?
It's Article 3.
No,
Where is
where
it?
is it posted online? The most current one?
If you search for spring 2018 town meeting warrant, or town warrant, it'll post. We good?
There we go.
All
Thank you.
right.
So now I feel,
You feel like you're participating?
I'm gonna look on yours, because your screen's bigger than mine.
So we're at Article
We're at Article
4.
number 4, fiscal year 19 Chelmsford Public Schools budget.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Article 4, that the town move and raise approximately 59 million to defray the charges of the operation of the Chelmsford Public Schools for the fiscal period July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. I'm absolutely thrilled that this CPS budget is within the recommendation. There was no real pushback and discussion on that. I love that we had actuals built into the budget this year from Jay.
Yeah, I like that, yeah. But I
Which was-
understand why we didn't.
And
follow
I
that.
do. I understand why it's a little frustrating.
Right, but it
because
wasn't his
fault.
budget.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
I like what we heard as far as what's being added back in and the programs that are being proposed.
I think the overall book is very clear. I like the, you can flip to the back and everything ties in, the little asterisks on the,
And the notes
Things
at the
that you
bottom
might
of each
think
page.
about.
Right, yeah.
The
The
explanations.
packet
Yeah.
itself is, I think, excellent.
Yeah, I think it's very
Yeah.
thorough.
and transparent. I mean,
Yes.
like, there's nothing, like, I,
Even for someone who, who is not well-versed in reading budgets, even somebody who has never even looked at a spreadsheet before, I think you could pick this up, and with the notes and the asterisks and the way that it guides you, I think it makes it very easy to understand.
I agree. I know there are going to be some questions at town meeting about certain
sure.
things that were added into it on line items. I know we don't have purview over that, but I support and understand the reasons why those were made. I think one of them has been debated the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
has been the two administrators that have been added to the budget. The two assistant principals at the elementary level. Dr. Lane explained why he's putting those in, their function, and how the social emotional program is being crafted and put together. And it just, quite frankly, makes sense, especially built into the amount of budget that they have available and what they're looking at for numbers. Some of the other things that have been proposed just wouldn't make sense financially. I mean, I actually sat down and ran all the numbers for what we could potentially expect as far as adding more guidance counselors at the elementary level, adding more
Well, even somebody said,
Psychologists.
some people said, or social workers, and while I think that these are all wonderful positions that at some point might benefit our school system, the assistant principals have multiple functions. It's not just part of the social emotional. They're able to handle, and train and deal with the crisis team so that the principal can be freed up to do their, big picture job with, of the evaluating of the teachers and handling the curriculum within their building. But I think they can also take our principals are doing quite a lot. And when you look at other towns that have similar numbers of children per building, they have vice principals in their elementaries, because we're asking our principals right now to do 2 jobs, if not 3 or 4. They're wearing a lot of hats.
Oh, I agree, and I think another problem was that we're looking at implementing this. I think it's 180,000 or so that's been placed in the budget for these 2 administrators, going to be split in their times. If we were to put social workers in it all for the elementary schools, it's just not fiscally responsible at this point. It wouldn't work actually in the budget that he's currently proposing, because, I mean, the median salary for a social worker is $75,000 thereabouts. And that's based on national averages, and that's not looking at Massachusetts, which technically has a higher average salary on the whole. At the very bottom, you'd be looking at $46,500 for entry level. So even with 4 at the very bottom, that's $183,000 right there. You're looking at the median, at the $75,000 per social worker, you'd be looking at $300,000 for just this budget, and that's just starting out.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea, pie in the sky type of thing, but it just doesn't work in what we're looking at for budget, especially when looking to add in other positions that haven't been added back in yet. So
Yeah, no,
And the social worker only hits only checks off one box.
exactly.
Whereas the vice principal check off multiple boxes.
Remember, we don't get to decide how the school committee, all we give them is a number.
Right.
Oh,
No, right.
and we understand we have no budget line behind me, but I know there's going to be a lot of discussion on this at town meeting.
Town meeting, yeah.
And I think we need to at least discuss, we're voting this up, we like the budget, but we need to discuss at least a couple of the points of contention that are going to come up. Because
Discuss
the
the
question's going to be asked to us,
Yeah.
why
Why
we
we
supported
supported.
this. And the answer is, I think we supported it because it's a sound budget.
Yep.
I'm happy that they are all moving forward too on accomplishing their goals and things that were absent from previous budgets, that they're building back the curriculum coordinators to the, level
the science
that
one.
they
yeah,
want.
yeah.
I just think that now you've got full day kindergarten in, and their budget is clear and precise, and, yeah, good job.
But there's one position that was eliminated in the past that will be,
Eventually, and that's the thing, is and he seems to have a plan as to when to bring these back, too. We can't bring them all back in 1 year. It would be nice if we had that kind of money.
And he's
but
doing it at the recommended level, too.
At the recommended level, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're getting science back. And the expectation is that in a year or so, we'll be able to get the final one back, correct?
So I think science came back
Science
last year,
last
didn't
year.
it?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ELA is.
ELA
is-
coming, yeah.
And then the expectation is at some point, we'll get a world language.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor? Aye. 6.
5. They were in the show? Oh.
6.
No, she's going to the next article.
Oh, I'm saying it was 6. Talking about 2 different things, Dan. I know you're focused. That's fantastic.
It's a switch.
All right. Article number 5.
Okay.
Minnesota Valley Technical School District FY19 assessment.
I would make a motion that we accept Article 5 for Neshoba with the total amount as $3,042,583 to fund their budget from 2009.
19. I'll second.
Discussion.
I really like the video they've showed us. For those of us who haven't had a tour, and I have had one, but I think that it's nice to see what they're doing. It puts context to the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a little, I don't know if the word is, I don't know, concerned. I'm still not quite 100% satisfied with the amount of information we're getting and the time that we're getting it, but I don't know if I ever will be 100% satisfied.
I think the improvement is we did see actual numbers.
We did. That
That
was a
was-
good
I
one
was
this year.
thrilled
Yes.
with that.
Yeah, that was
I
excellent.
think some former members of this committee would have been ecstatic to see that.
So we saw the actual numbers, excellent. We didn't get to see the actual end-of-year document or the audit report
Yeah.
that shows the cash balances, which I think is important for us to see. I felt that the presentation was very positive, so I feel very good about all of that. I have 2 thoughts going forward. I do feel like the moving stabilization fund amount is a problem for me.
Yep.
I feel like 10% may be not conservative.
Aggressive.
I mean, I don't know what the standard is, but I think in Chelmsford, we want like we think it'd be great if we had 8% in our stabilization
Between
fund.
5 and 10%, yeah.
5 and
So,
10.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're going with 10.
And that's,
And you have to think, $1,500,000 on their total budget, it's a lot of money to have in a stabilization fund, and then still, when they originated the stabilization fund, which I agree they ought to have, their hypothesis of why they should need that is in case they ever need a new roof. Then we heard the description that they're coming to the towns to pay for a new roof. So I feel like $1,500,000 is a large number in the stabilization fund. That's my perspective on that. I'm happy my other thing that I keep going back to is I'm happy that they have the program for postgraduates. The number is low, but it does affect our enrollment. Like right now, it's like less than 1%. If they continue to grow that, that could increase our percentage, and we would be paying a larger percentage for everything, for capital, for all those line items. So I feel philosophically that they should charge students who are postgraduate for that program, and they can do that under school financing, and they can charge an amount, there's an amount, and if you charge over that amount, then they are not included in our percentage, and I think that that's what they should do, because if you're going to post-high school, I feel you should pay for it, not the taxpayers. If it's a small amount of money, okay, but as time goes by, that could make a big effect.
I totally agree, and we've brought this up I've been here now, this is my third year?
It's come up every year, Anita.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
No,
No, no,
no,
no,
I
no,
totally
no, no, no.
agree.
You're right.
And
That's-
I think it just, especially where, it's all the students that we're trying to educate, right? It's not, and we're trying to be fair across the board. And I 100% agree with you. I think, they should be charged for the certificate, the post,
Right.
something.
There should be a nominal charge there.
Something. I
Yeah,
mean,
nominal.
it'd
Right.
be
It doesn't have to
something
be a
that
full amount,
show,
right.
yes.
But nominal, I agree with you.
And the amount, I can't remember what the amount is, but it's not a lot of money to go for a whole year and get something that you can.
And it's
Earn a
not about the dollar amount, it just, like, from a parent's perspective, right? Like, I just feel that that's just being more fair.
Do
And
we know if other
I
tech
didn't look it up
schools
this
have
year, but yes.
post-grad programs? They do, and do tech schools normally
I
charge?
did look it up in the past, and yes, and.
Yes, they have them, and yes, they charge for them.
Yeah,
The student, not the community.
right. But the rule is, there's a certain amount of money. If you charge less than that, you can charge them, but if you charge less than a certain amount of money, the student still goes into our percentage calculation. So my recommendation
go
is you
over that
charge,
percentage.
I don't care if it's $1 more
Right, 50 cents.
than what the minimum is, then they're not included in our
A
percentage.
Right.
But we need to hit our 40% to get our one more member.
But anyway, I overall want to say, the presentation,
That was great.
the demeanor, the willingness to offer information,
Plus defensiveness.
the actuals, all of that was very nice.
Yes, no, I appreciated the presentation. I agree with everything you said, though, Kathy. I think that the fact that they're gonna have that kind of money in the stabilization fund, and yet, like you said, they're still coming back to the towns.
Well, remember, after they've hit their 10%,
roof.
they're gonna pop over to the OPEB and fund that more.
Right, but then they're coming to us for the roof.
Yeah, that kind of rubs me the wrong way, where a stabilization fund is meant to cover those unforeseen expenses. And part of this is unforeseen. I mean, part of it's capital planning, and I get capital planning, you can't fund from stabilization capital planning. But you have an issue that pops up, like the boiler issue that they're talking about, where they're shuffling money around. That's something that you approach the stabilization fund for in order to take care of, instead of shuffling money around and saying, oh, we don't have the money for that now, we have to fund this and we have to do that. So that's what I mean. It's what a stabilization fund is there for, is to take care of those issues that come up that need to be taken care of.
So you don't reduce services.
I don't appreciate when it's built and not approached when necessary. So I agree with you, Kathy. I think as far as the budget's concerned this year, I agree. They did a great job. I love the presentation. I love seeing the actuals. Of course, I'm gonna support it. but I want to see that, and I want to see some sort of recording of their meetings. I know I bring this up every year, but I like I mentioned to him. I said just a voice recording. That's all I'm asking for. In fact, I'd prefer a voice recording because at least then I'd be able to listen to it, in the car when I'm sitting in 2 hours of traffic.
Is there a reason with this technology, is there a reason why you can't use an iPhone to record this? Is there some law?
I don't know. I haven't been given a real viable reason as to why they can't do it. The usual comment is they can't get the telemedia to take care of it. Well, we had a great presentation. Like you start off a conversation with, we had a great presentation, and one of the people on their board is from Chelmsford and in the telemedia program, and I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't understand why we can't get just a stationary recording, even an audio recording.
But I mean,
something.
The excuse that they can't have students come to the meetings at night is sort of hogwash, because we have kids
We have students come
doing concerts.
Well, not only
at
that,
night,
we
and-
have student representatives at our CPS
at
CPS
night.
skill
At
meetings at night.
Yeah.
I
It's
just
possible.
I don't get it.
Well, where there's a will, but
Well, there you go. I don't think we need to finish that idiom.
no, I just stopped right there.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Well, I just want to understand, I mean, if we have some objections, what is the remedy, or is it just we have a discussion and then we approve it?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
great. That's a great question.
You know, I'm new, I'm just quite not getting this.
So the way that, especially within the show, the way the budget works is they have to get a certain percentage of the towns to support their budget.
Right.
And it's a vote up or vote down budget. We really have no control over what they use it for. They tell us what they use it for, and then we hope and we pray that that's the case. And usually that's the case. What they present is how they're going to proceed. There was discussion, I think, 2 years ago about voting down their budget, and the reason why, I forget off the top of my head. I think there was stabilization, actually.
Is that our only option? I guess
Is to
that's
vote
the
down the
question.
budget. So what happens
You
if we
vote up or down?
if we vote down the budget? There have to be, I think, a certain percentage. I think 2 other towns would have to vote down the budget. Then they have to go back, review, and present another budget at a special town meeting, which we would have to hold in order to get that done. It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense for us to vote down the budget when we support it mostly. What we ask them to do is to come back and to make those changes and hope to see those in the future. What we have seen, as we're talking about right now, is the actuals have been built into the budget. This is the first year we've seen the actuals provided and built into the budget. And I've been on, Kathy, we've been on here 4 years now. So it's progress. We've seen something we've been asking for quite some time now, which is great. And I'm happy about it. So I think if we keep beating into submission, eventually we'll get more of what we're looking for. And I think they're making strides towards providing us what we're asking for as well. I don't think they're going to budge on the stabilization. If they do budge, they're going to budge straight over to OPEB and do it that way. By law, they're allowed to do certain percentages for it. And the reason why the stabilization fund is there is because they can't call a town meeting, a special town meeting, to take care of an issue when they need money. They don't have a stabilization fund for a town to fall back on. They don't have money that they can go. They have to go to all of their member towns and hold special meetings in order to get something done during the school year if it's not at the budget time. That's why they have it. It's statutory provided. It could be as much as 10% of the gross. I forget the exact calculation. It's a ridiculous amount of money that they'd be able to put into the stabilization fund if they really wanted to. 10% is big. I agree. But they could put even more if they wanted to. And there's not a whole heck of a lot we could do about it, except vote their budget down and hope that they would change and make that decision. So that's kind of where we're at. The stuff that we're asking for, we'd like to see, although important, is not in the grand scheme of things extraordinarily important in order to get the budget together and done and approved this year. There's nothing there that's so shockingly horrible that we can't say we support this budget, but we're looking in the future for you to do this. So that's kind of how we approach.
But I think it's important that we voice our concerns.
Yeah, exactly.
Publicly, so that the
And what I usually do.
residents are aware of our thinking.
Yeah.
and understanding that while we are approving this, we still have concerns.
Yep.
That the concerns that we've expressed in prior years, some have seen resolution, like the actuals. Hopefully, in the future, others will be resolved as well.
We had the same issue with the CPS budget. We were looking for actuals last year, and
Right.
and
And we
now
got them
now
this year?
again, it was Denise's second budget, I think. Or
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
So
well, sort of. She wasn't
Not
even
even
for a
really.
full year the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
and then it was Jay's second budget.
Second, yeah.
So we have two new superintendents for the two school districts, and they are working and striving to put in the actuals like we asked them to. So like I said, we're making progress on fronts. It's just a matter of us being, I hate this word, transparent in how we're discussing these situations and why we're coming to our conclusions. And you'll see if you look in the previous budget books, what I try to do in the chairman letter, and which you'll all get that chance to look at soon, because I haven't started it yet. It's
Let's
based on
just
our
all express
vote tonight.
We'll all express our confidence in you right now.
Oh, thanks, yeah. Let's try to explain why we voted the way we voted, so at least there's a snippet as to how we did that. And if someone voted the other way, and you'll see in a couple of the past budget books, you'll see why those people voted that way, at least a small explanation. And then at town meeting, if you've seen it before, we can be polled as to why we voted the way we voted.
Sometimes we're polled
Thank you.
just what our vote is, and then other times we're polled for the reason behind it.
Yeah, and usually it's Sam that's asking us. Yeah, Sam Chase. Okay, so any further discussion on the Juba Valley budget?
So my observation would be, other than I don't know who asked when Denise was here, do the post-grads have to pay? And the answer was no, and moved on.
Right.
So none of that was discussed with them at the meeting. So now we spend 10 minutes.
I did bring it up. I mean, it's been discussed a number of times in the past in previous meetings, but I guess you're right, that we should have discussed more with them. But, we brought it up at past things, and so.
Multiple discussion.
You brought it up at the breakfast meeting as well, and
Yeah.
I was there and witness to it.
It's been an ongoing discussion that we've
Yeah,
had.
so I mean, I
But
think
valid
that,
point, Eric. I mean,
you're
maybe we
right.
should have delved into it a little more
right.
again.
I think that I
I thought we asked
to
them.
describe
We did, but
my
then we moved on
motivation,
quickly.
I have, sometimes I come across as being negative to Neshoba. I'm happy the kids go there, it's a great education. I just wanted to briefly bring up my point the other night about the postgraduates, the number of the enrollments, and not beat a dead horse. So that's why I didn't elaborate on it.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, I did the same thing because the meeting last year, I think I was really harsh to them.
And that was the sentiment that they had going out of the meeting was
Is that we were pretty
we
hard
were
on
pretty mean to them.
Yeah, so, and again,
But wouldn't you rather do that with them instead of with them not here? But to me, that's almost worse.
no, you're absolutely right, but
Right.
like, we asked the question, and when we go to vote, I will express my
displeasure.
displeasure.
I don't think, I'll be honest, Eric, I agree with you, but I don't think we would have gotten anywhere.
No,
Because
I'm
we-
not saying you would,
I think we spent,
you would
what,
have, but,
almost a half hour discussing it last year.
We
yeah.
spent more than a half hour discussing it last year, yeah.
So, but, you know, that,
I
I
think-
think we need to be aware that you guys weren't there last year. and
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
probably would have been beneficial, and I apologize.
Sometimes the institutional back and forth gets lost in the shuffle. Okay, any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Hearing none?
Hang on, one nay.
Oh, sorry. Nay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just think it's important that,
Strat.
you know, that it's been 3 years, we've asked for certain things, and they haven't.
Okay.
I was placated by the actuals.
I know,
I was too.
but, you know, even, just give me
But
a
that,
bone.
but
Give
that
me
was the bone,
something.
the actual was the bone for me. But
All
that's
right,
it.
moving along. Article 6.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve Article 6. It's moving.
FY19. Yep. Sorry.
Article 6. I move that the town raise and appropriate $62,816,259 transfer 6,000 from the Wetlands Protection Act, transfer 1,427,727 from the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund, transfer 950,000 from the Sewer Betterment Fund, transfer 636,190 from Sewer User Revenue, transfer 68,435 from Cable Television License Review, and transfer 159,260 from the Child Care Revolving Fund to defray the charges of the town's general government operation for the fiscal period July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019, and the line items as presented.
It was a mouthful.
Whoa, this is why she reads them.
Do I have a second?
Should have brought my water.
I'll second.
Discussion. All right, this is the big enchilada. I was happy with all of my departments. Everyone was right where they should be, but budgeting wise with recommendations. As we see every year, there's always asks that can't be addressed in that year, but they look forward to doing in the next year, and we saw some of those addressed this year. So especially with DPW facilities and police on my end, and I know on Eric's end,
Yep.
I was comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I was very comfortable with the police and the fire. I think they're being fiscally responsible.
Yeah. Like I said, they'd all love to increase their force
Yeah,
numbers, and
yeah.
it's just not feasible at this time.
But I think they're doing great things with what they're given.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're all working well together, right? They
Yes.
all understand the general goal, and particularly, like, if there's a need in another area, I find that I've seen, at least being the last 3 years in general, that one department will say, you know, it's not our turn, you guys take care of that, that's more important. So I do appreciate all of that.
I mean, we even saw that with police and fire this year, public safety. But there was an issue that where funds were available and shifted because of the issue. So they work within their budget. They stay within their means. Actuals that came out recently from Darlene were fantastic. Looking like everything's going forward for this year. And once again, I have to applaud Paul and John on the budget and where we are currently. It's with what we have, a very sound budget, and it shows that there's a lot of thought and effort put into it. And the department heads that run these departments are really working towards the ultimate goal of making sure that we're staying fiscally responsible.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Any further discussion? I think we've had a lot of discussion on these over the last few weeks, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6. Article 7, Finance Committee Reserve Fund.
I make a motion that we accept Article 7, that the town move and raise and appropriate $400,000 to be used as a reserve fund at the at the discretion of the Finance Committee for the fiscal year 2019 as provided in General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 6.
Do you have a second?
I second.
Discussion.
Jim, can you explain to our new members
I was
what
gonna
this
say
is?
that, yes.
Mass General laws provide that the town that has a finance committee is allowed to reserve funding that can be used and appropriated outside of town meeting for emergency situations, or for, I believe the correct and current wording is for extraordinary or unforeseen circumstances. And what that allows us to do is to not have to call a special town meeting every time something pops up that might be an issue throughout the year. In the past, we've used this, one of the examples I'll give is there was programming available when we had the budget issues with Chelmsford Public Schools. Darlene came in and asked for a certain number of funds so we could go ahead and do that funding. It was extraordinary and unforeseen, certainly, for that year. And we were able to recommend that transfer from the Finance Committee reserve to be used without having to call a town meeting and having the expense of such town meeting. It is under our purview to vote. I believe it's issued by the Board of Selectmen after we've voted on it. I believe that's the mechanism with which it's done. Correct me if I'm wrong.
For the reserve fund,
Yeah.
the request was brought to you.
It's brought to us, yeah. I don't think the Board of Selectmen have to. Yeah, no, okay. So, yeah, the request is brought to us, it's been brought in the past, I know Gary mentioned, someone might be popping up. Do we have a status on that truck and the insurance?
We are getting replacement coverage, but they're only gonna replace the vehicle type that
Of
was
course.
damaged. So we're now trying to find the delta between what we're seeking versus what they will replace.
Mhm.
So that's why he said, we'll be back to you.
Okay. Does he know when he'll be back to us?
It's probably in a couple of weeks. It may actually go to your night of town meeting kind of thing.
That would be great, so we could have it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Knock on wood, we're hoping that. We're not gonna need any.
You don't want any April snowstorms?
We couldn't get it that quickly.
No, I know,
anyway.
yeah.
That's funny.
So that's the kind of thing that we're approached for during the year. Something that happens, like a boiler explodes and then there's no funding for it. Like
One year there was a leak in the high school and the ceiling fell through on equipment. And that was like just before
Yeah.
school start. I was still on the school committee at the time, so that was a
So something,
episode.
it's something
Yeah.
like that.
Like,
Extraordinary, unforeseen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Like a truck hitting a telephone pole and flipping over. Yeah. So it's stuff like that, and then whatever funds aren't used are folded back into are either used at town meeting or folded back into free cash at the end of the year. And
So
usually,
it doesn't accrue beyond
no, it
the
doesn't.
existing
So
year?
it's not a fund that we keep revolving. It's a
Use it
fund
or
that
lose it.
it's, yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So that's why we have to fund it every year. So we have that baseline that we start with. And then if we haven't used it by the next vote, it'll be either used for portions of the budget in the fall, or it will earmarked that way, or it'll be returned to free cash.
Okay.
Is this the typical amount?
This is the typical amount
Yeah,
for,
about,
for as long as I remember. Yeah,
10 years now.
yeah.
No inflation? Just a joke.
Well, we just haven't, we
it's
haven't.
almost like betting against ourselves.
Yeah, it was, yeah, yeah. We haven't hit the 400,000. There hasn't been a need to increase. I believe if we came to a couple of years where we had an unforeseen issue where we needed more than that, I think the discussion could be had then, but we haven't so far. And so I think it's comfortable to continue with that number going forward, at least for now.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6. All right, the next article is Article 8, accept and fund Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 13E, to establish the Special Education Reserve Fund.
The amount is to be
Yeah, I know
determined.
Jay never really specified the amount, if you remember when he was here. But I think we obviously understand the concept of establishing the fund.
Mhm.
Remember, he said he'd get back to us with.
Yeah, I don't think he's gotten back to us with the number. Let me just double check while we sit here.
I haven't heard anything,
No, we haven't gotten any emails from him.
But I think it's a good idea to establish the fund.
Yeah,
Right.
he's had a lot of
Sure.
stuff on his plate recently.
There isn't, there's just the one article. It isn't like establish the fund and then a
No,
second.
It's
like
two parts, A and B.
A and B.
A is to establish a fund, then B is to transfer money into it, to use it the subsequent fiscal
Yeah.
year.
I think he
Then
was
remember
having,
he was talking about the money coming back from that.
yeah.
And he was gonna
And I thought
proportion
he
that
was,
in.
But he never nailed down saying it's gonna be.
He said he
Yeah.
thinks it's gonna be
I-
this, it may be this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there was no specific,
when we met with him, they were discussing, that too, with no specific amount of money. I wasn't here the night of the presentation, so it sounded at that time that there was gonna be some sort of decision presented to the school committee, and I,
At some point.
And they haven't had that discussion
Yeah.
yet. Maybe it's on Tuesday, if not the next.
so should
So,
we,
so what do we do when half of the article is something we could vote on without specifics and the other half isn't?
should we put it with our,
Wait until we get both.
yeah, should we add that?
we can move this until April 30th or whatever day we decide to hold our meeting to discuss the other outstanding amounts. But I agree, we should probably punt
Hold it,
this
yeah.
until we have a specific amount, because we can certainly vaguely support the funding, but I'd like to have an actual there.
Yeah.
Would you like,
Is this gonna be one of those ones where we vote at
At town meeting, yeah, or right before town meeting, yeah.
so, would you like, I'd be happy to send Jay an email and ask him to,
Yeah,
you know,
that's, yeah, if Kathy, if you want to do that, that's great.
I'd do that.
Thank you, because I have a lot on my plate.
I was
Appreciate
thinking that
that.
might be the case.
We don't wanna vote on the first half of it?
No.
No, because you have to vote on it as a
We're
whole.
gonna vote on the whole article. We're not gonna vote on a half article.
Okay.
We support Article 8.5. No, it doesn't
8A.
work that. 8A, yeah. So we'll punt that. We'll have a placeholder in the book. I'll explain that we're making that vote prior to town meeting, when we have the actual number. All right, Article 9.
Just real quick, just for
Sorry.
our new members, we do this happens often.
Yeah.
We don't always have actuals at this point, and usually they come in, like about a week or two before town meeting, but at that point, we've already had to get the book and everything in.
We need to publish a month before town meeting, and that's why we have to do this. And yeah, reasonably, sometimes we just don't have the numbers yet.
So we tend to meet before town meeting in a room somewhere.
Yeah, we could meet earlier if all the numbers come in. I don't think we need to do that. I think we can meet prior to town meeting.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Please don't make me come in like the week of tax day.
You don't want to come in April 17th? I'll specifically go as 17th is a Tuesday this year,
Tuesday,
right?
so you're thinking the.
No, we
you're
could,
thinking-
no, we could definitely go on the 17th.
Yes, I won't be here. I will be on a plane.
All right, Article 9, fiscal year 19 capital budget.
I would make a motion that we approve Article 9, that the town appropriate $3,280,571 for the following capital projects as listed in the article.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I was wondering if you were gonna read all that.
You can if you want to, Kathy. I'm not
No,
going to
that's all
stop
right.
you.
I'll,
It's like the legal jargon at the end of an advertisement.
Exactly. Just read really fast.
It'd be like
Really
fall
fast.
town meeting where I read all those letters that came in on the marijuana articles. I spent a good half hour reading those. I'm happy with the capital budget. It's well thought out. It's discussed. It's televised this year, which is phenomenal. Although I guess some people don't think it's televised still. It's nice to see that it's available and easily consumable. It's easy to follow. I understand the things that came forward that weren't able to be supported this year. Kathy, I want to again thank you for serving on that committee.
Thanks,
It was great that we have representation there and such strong representation. And John, thank you for running a smooth capital planning committee.
I would like to also compliment John for very well organized, very well run meetings, and also all the various people who came and presented their case ardently. And if you've watched those or just hear from the past, there's so much that has to be done and only so much money. So and when you come down at the end, it's nice that people compromise and people here will say, well, I'll give up this or I'll give up that. So it's a nice representation of our town, and I think John does just really a great job.
It's good to know that we have a plan, that we are planning years in advance in order to get projects done, that there is some forethought into things that are being approached. And everything here, especially the paving project, I think it's been a long time coming. As we had the tri-board meeting, when I asked Gary, how long has it been, and he says 20 years plus since it's been done. That parking lot was bad when I went there. So and I'm talking about Parker, not the high school. It's long overdue. They'll be able to at least lay the pipe work for stuff in the future, although they can't have the funding to do some of the stuff he's looking to do eventually. But we'll be able to put all the pipe work in there so that they can do that in the future. They'll be all the stuff will be ADA compliant as of installation, and no one will be tripping and killing themselves in the high school parking lot as they go to the PAC. Which is great. It's good for personal injury law attorneys, but other than that, I mean, it needs to get done, and it's not foolish. It's forethought. So I fully support this capital budget.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the parking lot's much needed. I think there's other things on there that are also safety issues, like the microwave radio network. So that, our first responders can stay in touch on a secure network throughout the entire town without any down.
I think the perfect example happened in that storm we had a couple weeks
Yes.
ago, where part of the town went down and we did not have the lines there for public safety. They had to broadcast, hey, we can't, we don't have the capability to contact out in that part of town. That's frightening.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's scary, yep.
So these microwave radios are gonna be phenomenal. And I'm excited about the new cameras they're gonna be able to put in as well because of this.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, technology is amazing,
How about that?
yeah.
And how about that wide area mower snow blower for facilities? I can't wait for that. And the
would've
senior
gotten
center
good use
roof,
this
so we don't
year.
get leaked on. That's also good.
What's that?
The senior center roof, so we don't get
Yes,
leaked on. We're in town
yes.
meeting. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article number 10, fiscal year 19 sewer enterprise operating budget.
Okay, I'd make a motion that we accept Article 10, that the town move and appropriate the following sums to operate the sewer enterprise fund for the fiscal year 2008. Personnel services, $1,085,156. Expenses, $2,815,000. Total, $3,900,596. And that $3,900,596 be raised from the sewer enterprise revenues.
Second.
Discussion? Pretty self-explanatory. All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article number 11, Milan Avenue and Western Avenue sewer pump station upgrades.
Article 11, I move that the town transfer, I make a motion that we accept Article 11, that the town transfer $180,000 from the sewer enterprise fund, free cash, to upgrade the Milan Avenue and Western Avenue sewer pump stations through weather-tight buildings and pumps.
Second.
Discussion?
What was that amount again, Kathy?
180,000.
Thank you.
I know that Steve said they're in much need of work and repair, and they're no-brainers. Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article number 12, establish form enterprise fund and in fiscal year 19 form enterprise fund operating budget.
I make a motion that we accept Article 12, that the town accept the provisions of the Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, F1/2, to establish a separate account classified as an enterprise fund for the Chelmsford Forum, effective for the fiscal year 2019, and B, that the town appropriate $110,000 in expenses, and that for the fiscal year 2019, and that $110,000 be raised from the Chelmsford Forum Enterprise Fund revenues.
Have a second?
Second. No, you go right ahead.
Discussion? Paul, is that being awarded on Monday night?
Yes, yeah, the bids are in, it's in the packet, so we will meet that target.
Fantastic. And again, football in the summer.
I might go just to see what it looks like.
It's gonna be
With
interesting.
brass down.
I can't quite picture it.
No,
But it's gonna be interesting,
yeah.
and it's gonna be a great boon for that area.
Yeah, I'm interested in their outfits they're gonna wear in the summer.
Indoors, no less. Yeah. All right.
What's the, I should ask this on the capital plan, the rationale for 2/3 vote for this one?
Borrowing. The two-thirds vote is borrowing. Anytime you issue debt, you need a two-thirds vote.
Okay.
That's law.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article number 13, fiscal year 19, public education, government access, and cable-related enterprise fund operating budget.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Article 13, that the town appropriate the following sums to operate the cable television public educational PEG access enterprise for fiscal year 2019. Personnel services, $380,495, expenses, $352,150, for the total of $732,645, and that the total be raised from the cable television licensing revenues.
Second.
Discussion. It's concerning that their revenue's going down as much as it went down. It was 3 or 4%, you said? I guess the concern is how they're gonna keep doing this every year.
Yeah.
And I guess that we don't have no one really has an answer for it. It may involve legislation. But everything they're doing, obviously, we're on them right now. Has been good so far.
In high def.
In high def, no less, yes. And we actually can look at stuff on the, although we look at the same thing for the past hour. On the televisions here, which is great, because the screens did not do us justice. So, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article 14, fiscal year 19 Golf Course Enterprise Fund operating budget.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Article 14, that the town appropriate $30,000 in expenses to operate the Golf Course Enterprise Fund for the fiscal year 2019, and that $30,000 be raised from the Golf Course Enterprise revenues.
Second.
Discussion? Is this out for bid currently, or what's the current status on this?
No, that's a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
We've got a couple years left.
Couple of years left, yeah. Seems to be going well so far. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
6. Article 15, annual authorization of departmental revolving funds.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Article 15, that the town move and authorize the following amount of expenditures for revolving funds which have been established under the provisions of Chapter 35, Section 6, Code of Town, Chelmsford. Dog pound, $10,000, senior citizen, $75,000, senior citizen respite care, $75,000, police cruiser communication equipment, $20,000, fire life safety equipment, $20,000, and sealer of weights, $40,000.
Second.
Discussion? It's their annual rollover. I have no comment on it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 6-0. Article 16, cemetery wreath and floral decorations revolving fund.
I would like to make a motion that we accept Article 16, moving that the town amend Chapter 35, Section 6, Department of Revolving Funds, etc., for the cemetery wreath floral decoration revolving fund in the amount of $10,000.
Second.
Discussion?
I think this is a great idea, and I think I just think it's a great idea, and I think it adds,
I think it's nice.
yeah.
It's a good program, and as the superintendent corrected me, it was started before Wreaths Across America. So it allows non-service members as well as service members to be decorated throughout the holidays. It's a great mechanism to allow this to happen.
Yeah.
And I see no reason why we shouldn't support it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article 17, the Cemetery Improvement and Development Fund.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Article 17, moving that the town transfer $50,000 from the sale of graves and lots to the Cemetery Improvement and Development Fund.
Do you have a second?
Sorry.
Any discussion? No, this is pretty standard every year. They control the funds. They want to keep it that way. I understand why, especially because law provides for it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article 18, the Community Action Program Fund.
I'd like to make a motion that the town raise and appropriate, for Article 18, $10,000 to fund the community action program as detailed in the article.
Second?
Do we recommend approval of it? Did you say recommend
I
approval?
did
Oh, sorry.
recommend.
Yep, second.
Discussion? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, this is, for the people who don't know, this is a great program.
I-
You know, I know you know.
I know. 2001.
Yeah.
I'm on the list on town. I was searching for something and my name popped up and I went, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. No, it's a great program. They give out, you know, small grants to people who come to them, usually Eagle Scouts, people that are doing something
Gold
within the
awards.
community. I'm sorry?
And gold awards.
And gold awards. You know, usually young people that are doing something in the community. It's going to improve the community. That needs to be sustainable. It can't be something that's going to require the town to consistently maintain it. It's a really good program.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 6-0. Article 19, rescind remaining borrowing authority for school's modular building project.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Article 19, moving that the 1 million authorized but unissued balance of the 7,900,000 borrowing that was previously approved under fall town meeting, which amount is not needed to pay costs of completing the project for which it was approved, is hereby rescinded and of no further force or effect.
I second.
Discussion?
I think this is wonderful.
Yes, and I hope it puts to bed.
Good for them.
Yeah, I think
Hey,
it's
we
great.
came in $1 million under budget.
Yeah,
How
we-
about that?
Yeah, let's
You
have a
never hear
little
stuff like that.
applause.
And I agree with Anita. I hope this puts to bed any discussion that this wasn't actually the case.
Yes, because I'm kind of tired of hearing that.
There was discussion that this was actually the case?
There was discussion on social media and other areas
Yes,
that this was a falsehood.
yes. Oh,
Well, that's unfortunate because they came in $1 million under budget.
Yep.
yes.
I have a question that I thought of after the fact. It would have been a better question for Dr. Lane when he was here, but I know he mentioned, and I think this even came up with Gary at the DPW, that the existing modular classrooms are in disrepair and they're old and they're getting worn out. Is it not possible to utilize this funding for that, or is it specific to
It was
this
specific
proposal?
to the elementary school,
Well,
I believe.
yeah, but not only that, it's authorized for borrowing but was unissued. So there's no actual funds
Yeah,
there.
right.
We're not returning $1 million. There's a
Right.
borrowing authority for it. We can't really transfer the borrowing authority for that into something else. They can't go and say, oh, I want to buy this instead.
Even if it's still modular classroom related?
It would, no, no. And there'd be quite the uproar if that
Yes.
happened, yeah.
No,
And
just
all
ask
the
a
workers
question.
going
No,
around.
it's a great idea. I get where you're
Yeah.
going with it. But yeah, unfortunately, I think, well, Gary said that he's keeping them as up to date as he possibly can,
Yeah.
making the repairs he needs to make.
And the hope
But
is
you're
at some
right.
point down the road, we have a resolution to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're
Yep.
looking, and that's why did they end up approving the language that last night for the
Yes.
school building?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
they
they're
did.
going forward with the,
To the selectmen on Monday night.
perfect, okay. Well, hopefully we got a support from them as well, so we can get back in the loop. But that kind of highlights the need that we have for a building project. I mean, yes, we're addressing, that we're kind of being punished for the fact that we're maintaining what we have as best as we can, which is unfortunate, especially because there are a lot of projects in the pipe and there are communities that don't quite take as much care of their facilities as they could, and they're being funded. So I'm hoping that in the near future we have a project that goes forward and that it's fully supported by the town, not the town itself, but the town people, because that's necessary for us to go forward. Otherwise, we have the problems with the modulars that we have, and we're gonna have to keep looking at modulars in the future, because that's the easier way to take care of it in a more cost-effective way.
It's a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid,
Band-Aid,
yep.
and it's a Band-Aid, a necessary Band-Aid, because whenever you attach something to a building, these modulars, 3 of them aren't attached to the elementary schools. It's because of ADA compliance, and if we attach, we trigger all those codes, and we have to update everything, and it's
Fire codes too.
so, in the fire codes, in the fire codes as well, and it's astronomical, the price, and that's why we really do need to look at building a new facility, so. But this right here is phenomenal. I couldn't be happier. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article 20. CPF fiscal year 18 debt service, administration expenses, and reserves.
Okay, and I would make a motion that we approve Article 20 as presented.
Oh, that's a long
We're
one.
You're not gonna read that whole thing?
All right, Kathy, ready? I'm gonna time you now.
With the following amounts: 100,000 for the acquisition, creation, preservation of open spaces, 100,000 for the acquisition, preservation of historic resources, 100,000 for the creation, preservation, and support of community housing, and 150,000 for the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2009 budgeted reserve, with all other monies being undesignated until further recommendation.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Yep, pretty self-explanatory. The press came forward us and discussed how this works. Darlene's given us presentations in the past about how the buckets work. Makes sense to go forward. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Article 21, Community Preservation Fund, funding for recreational use.
I would make a motion that we accept Article 21, that the town appropriate 50,000 from the Community Preservation Fund for the rehabilitation, restoration of land, recreation, loose, etc.
Do a second.
Second.
Discussion? Again, pretty self-explanatory. All's in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Article 22, Community Preservation Fund, Byam Elementary School Playground.
I make me, excuse me, I make.
I know, we're at that point.
I make a motion that we accept Article 22, that the town appropriates 75,000 from the Community Preservation Fund for the construction of a playground at the Byam Elementary School.
I second.
Discussion? That's 75K, right?
Yeah.
Yep. The presentation they gave was great, and they just showed us that. It's nice to see a playground, and they come up with half the funding, and it's a need down the Byam.
Yep.
And I see no reason why we shouldn't support it.
I agree.
And the big thing is that Byam has, that's not the full cost of the
It's about half, yeah.
playground, and they're making the effort for the rest, and that's located nicely during they needed it Byam, and plus it's also a great location right on the bike path to
Mhm.
stop and be at the playground, so it's just a community.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 6-0. Wrong spot. Article 23, transfer of 9.89 acre parcel of land located off of Technology Drive to the Conservation Commission.
I would make a motion that we accept Article 23 as presented.
Second.
Discussion. All right, this, like the next one, is a transfer to Conservation Commission. They've agreed to accept it. It's worth de minimis value, 30,000. It's not generating taxes. It's basically a big pile of water. Yeah. So it's not. I don't know if you can really call it land. It's kind of just water.
Is it actual water? Is it like marshy?
It's marshy.
Yeah, it's marshy, right, okay.
Yeah, it's
It's not like a pond,
yeah, it's right on the border. It's right at the bend of Technology Drive, and it's touches. I can't remember the name of the road at the top.
No, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about, yeah,
it's
yeah.
Yeah, it's just marshy.
It's not a pond, but it's like really, really wetlands.
It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
Um,
Nothing can go there.
Turtles there.
I'm sure that there's wildlife.
There must be wildlife there. Yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0.
Sorry, we're getting a little punchy.
Hey, I'm going pretty fast.
I know, no, I'm impressed.
well.
We're doing good.
Article number 24, transfer of 1.72 acre parcel of land located off of Oak Hill Road to Conservation Commission.
I would make a motion that we accept Article 24 as presented.
I second.
Do we
Is this
accept or
all-
recommend approval?
I
She said
recommend.
she said she.
She said accept.
Oh,
Oh.
let me restate my motion. I would like a motion that we approve Article 24 as
Recommend
present.
approval.
Recommend approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion?
Is this water too?
No, this is
Okay.
land that goes out the opposite side, the back to where the paper road is. It's- So now that Oak Hill is all conservation,
Right.
the commission now wants to just add this to the parcel.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's accepted. Article 25.
Okay.
Hold on.
Boy.
It's a zoning bylaw amendment. Route 129, commercial district for transitional housing.
Okay.
So we have with us tonight 3 members of the planning board, which is phenomenal. This
That
kind
explains
this-
why you guys are hanging out.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
All right. It's all
Yeah.
coming back to me now.
I didn't get it on the agenda per se, although the vote of this article is here, and we do ask questions of people that have knowledge in the audience when we have a question about a certain article that we're voting on. And it just so happens that they're here.
To answer any questions
To
we
answer
may
any
have.
questions we may have.
Wait a minute.
So before they answer those questions, do I have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we recommend approval of Article 25 as presented.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Well, I'm confused.
Why are you confused?
Is this the same thing that we saw the other day?
No.
No.
Oh.
We have not seen a presentation on
No,
this.
no. This isn't the citizen petition.
No, it's
No.
not.
This is the-
Oh,
this is-
okay, sorry,
Nope.
This
sorry,
is for the
sorry.
planning board.
What this is doing, and please clarify and correct me if I'm wrong, is we're adding a definition and clarification for certain portions within the zone of the overlay to provide for multifamily residential housing units which are allowed in portions of the IA zoning district that fall within the BAOD in accordance with that section, which allows multifamily units anywhere within the BAOD. Multifamily residential units will not be allowed in the portions of the IA zoning district that are not within the BAOD. So this is really discussing the business amenities overlay district and where multifamily housing can be located, and it clarifies that we're dealing strictly with the business amenities overlay district, and that multifamily residential units are allowed in those portions.
And then their minimum square footage allowed for each type. No?
That's already there. So that language that you're seeing there is
Oh,
already
that's already there.
part
It's
of
the
that
underline
overlay.
is what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
It's strictly clarification,
Okay.
because we put it through last year, and we had an application, and there was some confusion on the part of the public,
Mm-hmm.
so we're clarifying.
Excellent. So basically, it's saying, it's giving us that definition within the article, so there's no confusion or concern that can be risen. This also allows for, as we had talked about in the multiple meetings regarding the overlay district, a mixed-use type of situation where we have family housing in with a commercial building closer to the highway.
Is there any, in the zoning, all of it that limits, like, the intent was to have, commercial in there. Like, I don't want it to get to a point where it's only multiple families, like, end up taking over. Is there some,
Yeah, we have a planning board.
Yeah. We have to look at them
okay,
as they come.
Every application comes through.
Yeah, I think it would be dangerous for us to lay down any particular rules. Among other things, we're finding that just the market for an area like that is changing, and it's calling now for more residential than we might have expected, say, 10, 15 years ago.
yeah, no,
So we're looking for the flexibility here.
yeah, I just wanna make, like, I would just
So
want
I
to
guess
know.
to answer your question, Anita, the planning board is tasked with making sure that proper zoning guidelines are being followed, and that whenever a project for building is brought into the town, that it makes sense in the overall planning of the entire town. That's why we have a planning board. The planning board's there to be the gatekeepers to any kind of construction. The problem with over papering really a definition is that you hamstring the planning board and require that there has to be another zoning amendment later on down the line, possibly even a year down the line, where they aren't able to really make those kind of unique and inventive type of decisions in order to plan for the town.
Well, what I can tell you, Anita, like, we were recently approached regarding someone who expressed an interest in converting a parcel that's going for foreclosure on Omni Way.
Yeah.
And the response from the administration of the town, which involves the community development director and myself, is the town's got a little bit of housing fatigue right now in terms of these type of projects, and I think the preference would be, we'd rather support commercial at this time.
Okay, I just
So
want to
think
make
that's
sure
what you're
that,
getting at.
yes, like there is
But I think
a,
Yeah.
there is a bit of,
The planning board.
though not for anything, though that piece of land being converted into residential makes more, makes
right.
a little bit more sense in that area if we're talking about what I'm thinking we're talking about.
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of different things we're considering when this comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you listened to the speech that George gave on the talk the last time around. Basically, the project that we just approved is putting us in line for grants for sidewalks and stuff in that area that really needs to be done, that we've heard from the community. Some of that is because of the BOID and the inclusionary housing bylaw that we passed. And there's a bunch of stuff going on. It's not just one size fits all for all these situations. You know, and it's interesting. It's, people like to put the unit number on it. Well, do you want 21 bedrooms? Or do you want 6 3-bedrooms? Or 4?
Gotcha.
There's
Yeah.
an awful lot to this. It seems to be really simple when you look at it at a quick glance, but there's a lot of stuff that we have to take into consideration. That's why we have what we have.
And
No, I
there,
appreciate that.
and there are
Thank you.
mechanisms in place that if someone believes that the planning board may have overstepped its bounds, that they can follow in order to address that. There are legal avenues, there are non-legal avenues to kind of approach that. And it's all guidelines, it's all set forth in common law and in statutory law, and it provides the ability for people to address concerns that they may have that they believe are not being addressed by the planning board, including voting every year for planning board members. So there's a lot of oversight there, and that's why we, again, have a planning board that takes care of things, and also have a zoning board of appeals that takes care of further matters on the other side of that. So general definitions that help clarify things are great, but really succinct and narrowing definitions really are dangerous.
Very much.
Could you, I guess just for background, maybe elaborate? So a petition came forward last year. I'm assuming based on this that there was disagreement on whether it was allowed or not. Is that?
It's basically it, and, we had town council weighed in, and, community development weighed in, and they still didn't get it, so it's like, it still seemed to be a slight point of contention. It was just, it's here, but it's not here.
Right.
And so we're just trying to make it super, super clear that this is the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
I just, since you're here, was there anything else that, can we ask if there's anything else that you'd like to add for input on this?
On that
So
one.
on that one,
Not on that.
I think you're understanding where we're here, yeah.
We're going.
Smart man.
Okay.
Any further discussion on Article 25? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. All right. Article 26. Citizen petition regarding zoning bylaw amendment, multifamily zone in business amenities overlay district.
Do you want me to make a motion?
You can make
before-
whatever motion you like.
Okay, well, since we're all, I'm gonna make it in the positive, since we've made all of them in the
Yes,
positive.
yeah.
Okay, I make a motion that, to recommend approval of Article 26, the citizen petition presented by Christine Bowman and Brian Latina, and the verbiage as presented.
Do you have a second? A second's needed for discussion.
All right, I'll do a second for discussion.
Oh, I need a second. I don't need the clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Smart.
Do I need to
Always.
Yeah, I think you do.
Hey, I told you, I used to kick Tom on the table.
Well, he's the chairman now, you can kick him.
Discussion.
So this changed, or it's not what they.
So, okay, so let's attack this piece by piece. What's presented here, in the warrant is what we vote on. We do not vote on any further amendments that may have been made in the nebulous cloud that is the time between the publishing of the warrant and the actual vote at town meeting. And so, or an amendment made at town meeting. We can't vote on something in between. We have to vote on what's presented in the warrant. And so, I know when the petition came forward, there was a lot of confusion and discussion over what exactly was being presented to us. And it was because instead of what the current article is, which is simply a reference to the overlay district, what was presented to us was the warrant article version and a new version of the proposed warrant article, which had been discussed was presented to us between the citizens proposing this petition and town council. After this had been presented to the planning board, and I believe the vote of the planning board was 5-0 against,
That's
with
correct.
2 members
5-0
not being
commission.
there. Yeah.
And legal advised them against the wording of this.
Yes.
Just so I'm following this, because
Yes,
I'm
it can.
totally confused, that.
So town council advised them that there were certain portions of this, I think we discussed that as well, the warrant article version that simply just could not pass muster as far as an amendment to the bylaw would be concerned.
So what we're seeing here as Article 26 on this piece of paper, which we're voting for, was,
The top of the page of what they presented to us when they came in.
okay.
The second page.
So, and this, the town council said it's
No.
not gonna cut mustard. So then somehow they didn't get their revision into the paperwork on time. Is that?
They didn't even, well, it was presented, and they were told that it didn't work.
When they submitted the article to town council worked with the petitioners before the warrant was closed and printed to get the wording done.
So the wording has changed.
So what's on that warrant is what is the result of the interaction between town council and the petitioners. Because
but
we
they've-
didn't want a situation occurring at town meeting where somebody comes and say, well, Mr. Moderator, I'm just an innocent resident petitioning, I don't understand the legal complexities, because that had happened in the past. So the
But what-
selectmen gave town council latitude to work with the residents. to get language that they want. Now, since then, they may have amended it further, but that's after the posting of the warrant, which is what Jim was explaining.
Okay.
Yeah, they've amended it even
They
further.
amended it even further
Okay.
after the
Alright.
posting of the
So
warrant.
this is based on feedback from the legal counsel that made it into the warrants, and then they adjusted it further.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Oh my God.
So they don't want this one in.
it keeps changing.
Well-
Okay, well then it's an easy vote for me.
Well, but isn't the issue, isn't it I mean, seems to me like this is the responsibility of these folks. I just don't understand, and there's an appeal process if someone doesn't agree with them, so why?
Because they don't agree with it and the appeals process
Well-
didn't work.
Well, it wasn't
I think
followed.
that's- What?
Well, let me,
Correct.
let's take a step back. Is
Can I have
there,
my paper back?
I'm sorry, yes.
because there is a concern, right, that I think it's Turnpike, right? You've got houses on one side, right? And then you've got this zone. It's my understanding that right now, in the commercial zone, we can go up to 5 stories. And they,
With appropriate permit, with
With
appropriate
appropriate,
special
right.
permits.
and they kind of want to make it more of a transition. So it's not like you're sitting there on Turnpike, you've got this small little, normal-sized ranch.
Two level.
And you're looking, next thing you look across the street and it's really high. I think the intent was to just make it,
No, because that industrial building is still an option, and this does not affect that at all. So this in no way affects the ability to put that 5-story industrial building across the street.
It just affects
It
the ability to do
only
a
affects the
5-story
ability
residential. Okay.
To, residential throughout the BAOD, not just across the street from Turnpike.
Okay.
And it essentially eliminates housing in what we tried to create as a work, live, play situation.
And let me add another piece to that. It eliminates housing from the point of view of the, of our board being able to have some control over what gets built. It doesn't stop a 40B.
yeah.
So what we're afraid of is, one of the things that we're afraid of is if you cut back what is allowed in terms of density in that area. I mean, nobody's gonna wanna build four units per acre up there. It just,
Not the right.
they're gonna look at it and say, we'll just
That's not the right
go
use
with
of
the
the
40B.
land.
Mass use of the land.
We
I
may
got it.
be on the verge of getting to our 10% so that we can put some of that to bed, but we're not there yet. For that reason, I think it makes a lot of sense to leave the planning board with the option of allowing that and having some control over what's built. And we tend to use our control to try to get things that look better aesthetically, that try to get things that are nicer than they might otherwise be if we had no such control. And I think we've been pretty successful at that on a number of projects.
So if I can sort of address, this kind of hamstrings the planning board, and it takes away the planning board's ability to do what they're tasked to do, which is to properly plan in the proper zoning certain projects that are being
And
built.
in particular, in relationship to the BAOD and the industrial district up there on 129, which, you know, as everybody's aware, a lot of people are looking at as a place where we can do some sensible development and increase our tax base.
And can I ask, and just for clarification purposes, would there be any type of definition that they're trying to propose? And I know that's not currently in front of us, but if someone were, say, to propose at town meeting a to them friendly amendment to this article, because of course we've got amendments that are coming right at town meeting, would there be some sort of definition that the planning board would be comfortable with?
Well, I would steer us away from that. I suppose it's possible that if somebody say, well, you could have a density of 50 an acre. Well, that's kind of silly.
Yeah.
But it would technically be a friendly amendment. On the other hand, if you look around at the developments of that sort that we've got in other parts of town, certainly around 20, we have some going up to 21 an acre, I think.
So,
Not all of them, some of them are less.
I would amend that or add to that, to me, there's two issues with this amendment. One is that it totally replaces the existing clause, and that existing clause is what allowed housing in the entire BAOD. This clause does not address housing in the entire BAOD. So whether or not it was intended, and I don't think it was, but passing this in any form that could be amended that would not substantially change the intent of it would still prohibit housing in the rest of the BAOD.
Which is the antithesis of what the objective
Which is
is.
the antithesis of why we have a BAOD.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what they're
we've
actually
been
trying to
told pretty
accomplish here.
Clearly that the modern trend and the one that's most likely to give us success is kind of a work, live, play.
Yes, absolutely.
And you-
Totally full of
Yeah,
it.
you've
Yeah.
heard the.
Beat that horse to a pulp, yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and buried it.
So that would change the scope of the
Yeah.
To reincorporate that would change the scope of this
Yeah.
amendment, which you cannot do on the floor.
So there are unintentional consequences that are occurring with the
Which are
proper, with this
highly
current
detrimental.
amendment, which are highly detrimental to
That's
not
our
only,
feeling.
not only your position, but also, quite frankly, the position of the petitioners, with what they're trying to accomplish because of these unintended consequences. And because there's not proper notice, because it would change the scope of the article, they would not be able to amend it to a point in which they could provide an amendment which
Well,
would.
obviously, that's the judgment of the town council and the moderator, but I think that's what
Certainly,
we'd say.
but I think that's where we're headed, yeah.
I think that would be.
Okay.
So, my opinion is that I would not support this article for two basic one. One, this is not the final product. What's gonna come out, it's gonna cause all sort of confusion. Number two, I don't agree with it because I believe that we have a planning board for the purposes of thoughtfully addressing issues.
Yeah.
So I that's my perspective on this, that's my opinion in the discussion.
Any other discussion?
When a project comes in front of the planning board, normally you send out notices to the abutters.
Yes, we do. There are specific rules for that.
Right, is there a way to, because this is a big area, right? And the butters may only, like,
Yeah, I mean, it could be somebody up at the other end of Turnpike. It wouldn't necessarily fall into the.
because this dramatically changes the area. Is there
What we do
something,
a lot of times, like George did, is you notify the abutter of the abutter of the abutter.
Yeah, we have the option as a
Yeah.
board to notify beyond the
So-
statutory requirements, and we do.
so I would, it may be, what might help, is to maybe expand notice.
I think this was what Mike's saying, is that
Yeah.
they have, yeah.
Oh, we effectively do that.
But for instance, right, like I'm in precinct 4 and I'm on the other side.
Yeah.
I never get notice of this because I'm not even close, but it does affect my neighborhood,
True.
right? Like in a way, and may want to be interested in coming down and just hearing that. So
That's a good point. At a certain point, expanding notice gets to be a difficult thing, at least expanding the kind of direct
Direct notice.
mail notice.
Yeah.
But we certainly, I mean, these things wind up also getting published.
Yep.
And particularly where there are any special permitting involved, which are almost assuredly would be on anything of this sort. And so you do at least get published notice.
So what I think, what you're getting at, Anita, and I think what people should be more aware of is that we do have this new overlay in process. And we do have a lot of projects that are being proposed. And people that are in that area should be paying attention to the posted agendas that are coming forward, that are easily and readily available on the website. And that if someone believes that they aren't, especially the precinct members of that precinct, which you are one of them, can post any of the 3 town Facebook pages, any upcoming meetings that people might be interested in.
We also have an office with people that.
And you
Yeah,
also
you
have an
can-
office where people can,
yeah.
yeah. So, but I think there is an abundance of ways that notice could be given, and I think that the legal notice should stay the way the legal notice is, because frankly, it becomes ridiculous if you try to go out any further. But I think there are mechanisms in place that can be maybe better utilized by other people, not necessarily by the planning board, but by people that are interested in this going forward.
We certainly as a board.
I know you certainly
In
attempt,
any
yeah.
direction, it's gonna be on over.
Of course.
So usually I find out when someone texts me,
Yeah.
like 3 hours before the meeting, just so you know. And I'm like, right, so, and again, because I'm not like right there, I'm on the other side. But even as a town meeting rep, if you can shoot me, shoot at least the precinct 4 where this area is, I think it's all precinct 4, is it? Shoot us an email that says.
There are possibilities to consider, maybe now's not exactly the time
Yeah.
to consider, but a precinct's only got, 18 reps?
Yep.
You might be able to notice the reps, I mean, it wouldn't be any kind of legal notification.
But it would be simply a, hey guys, this is happening in your
Courtesy.
precinct.
Yeah.
That
It'd
actually
be
might be
courtesy,
it might be a
yeah.
great way to
No,
proceed.
We'll give some consideration to that.
Let's talk about it, yeah.
I think that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
And that way there can be less kerfuffle
Yes,
Yes.
kerfuffle is the word.
when it comes time for these hearings to occur, because people can't say, we didn't know about it.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
okay, yeah, we'll certainly have a look at that one.
Any further discussion?
Do we
So
have- do
I would like,
we-
is there well, currently we have a motion in support of Article 26, but I'm not sure that we have a supporting vote. Do we want to either vote nay on this, or have it, I will entertain a motion to withdraw that motion to have a further motion.
I'd be happy to do that, based on, discussion and, you know,
Get a feel
I'm
for
happy,
what
would you like me to make a motion?
wouldn't.
I'll make a motion to withdraw a previous motion, and,
Do I have a second?
Second.
then I
All those in
will, I
Aye.
6-0 to withdraw.
will make a second motion. I would like to make a motion that I recommend that we do not support,
Recommend against approval?
recommend against approval of Article 26. Thank you.
Second.
As presented,
I'm sorry.
blah, 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 citizen petition.
I want you to write that.
Do I have a second? Did you get the blah, 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 Pam?
She's like, oh, yeah.
Verbatim.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll leave you in peace.
You're not gonna stay for the rest of the discussion here? No?
We waited this long, you might as well see it to the end.
How many more you got?
54? No.
4 more hours.
Yeah, 4 more hours.
The audience.
No, we have fun.
We were excited we had an audience. We thought you were actually here to actually participate.
All right, moving right along, and thank you
Thank
to
you.
the members of the planning board that were here this evening for further questions. Article 27, citizen petition, general bylaw amendment, town meeting conflict of interest.
Before I make a motion, do you want me to,
I will entertain a motion either way. So a motion can be made either in support or against approval. And we can see if there's a second and enough support for either.
Go against.
If, so,
I
that's
make a
it.
motion against Article,
No, yeah, you make a motion, yeah. So, do
You
you
read the whole
think we
thing.
should do it in the affirmative or in the, I mean?
We can do it in the negative, we've done the negative in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's what the
okay,
board
so
says.
let's
Yeah.
see, okay. Based on that, I'll make a recommendation, I would like to make a motion to recommend against approval of Article 27
I second.
as presented.
Discussion,
I mean, I think we had a pretty good discussion while they were here.
we did.
I think,
I have a
Dave
meeting,
brought up a very good point, the fact that there's really no consequences. Jim brought up a very good point that it was like a tiger without teeth. And I brought up the point that the people who are not abiding by any internal moral code and abstaining themselves from voting because of a conflict of interest are not all of a sudden going to have a moral epiphany because of this and publicly say they have a conflict of interest. So I don't feel that this is necessary. I feel this is regulation for regulation's sake.
this is, it doesn't make sense. It's creating a conflict where no conflict currently exists.
With no consequences.
With no consequences. It's.
Other than public shaming, and who's gonna do
It
that?
seems like it's a personal attack, quite frankly.
Yes.
I know what triggered this. I know what it's trying to do. And I think it's not necessary. We already have mechanisms in place.
Yes.
People are very much aware. If someone believes that there might be a consequence, and the intention is to let people know that there's a consequence, quite frankly, someone can get up and say that there are people that are there that have special interests, and I think it becomes well known to people that are paying attention. And as town meeting reps, and I can speak as one, we should know going in what the issues are, where there are concerns. There are enough meetings in this town. There's enough information in this town given. The town manager does a pre-town meeting where questions can be brought forward. I mean, at the point we get to town meeting, we should really have a general understanding of how we're going to proceed and a greater understanding of what we're voting on. And it should not be as difficult as it tends to be at that point. It's kind of frustrating. And this, what this does, it creates this public shaming, and and I have general concerns about some of the way this has to be done for the sake of professionals that this would affect.
But beyond that, I don't think it's gonna ever happen, because the person would have to admit it. And no one's gonna I mean, if this person,
Well, not only that, but it's not it's currently, the problem is it's not even a conflict of interest
Right.
currently.
Right.
They may have a financial interest, but that's not defined as a conflict of interest. This
when it comes to town meeting.
when it comes to town meeting members. Now, on a board, it's different. We take our
Right.
conflict of interest training. We understand when we can and cannot
Right.
do things. And I understand where that, on a smaller board where people come in before us, where we would need to recuse ourselves and to not participate in the vote. But in town meeting, it affects everyone. And that's the reason why, at the general base level, there is no conflict of interest law that affects the town meeting members. And it's done that way because if you look at a open town meeting rather than a elected and representative town meeting, there's nothing but conflict of interest in those. People that are attending to vote on a open town meeting are attending to vote for a special interest. They have a vested interest in how that vote turns out. They are there to stump for it and to make their votes and to push it forward. And that's why open town meetings don't work sometimes, because when it's non-controversial article, you may not even have a quorum to vote on that article. I mean, this totally undermines the whole point of having a representative town meeting, and I can't in good conscience support it.
Are you gonna put all that in writing?
yeah, I was just gonna say that.
I might. I might.
I thought that was more than the article deserved. Yes. Right?
And I'm just gonna add, I feel the intent was punitive.
It's a punitive intent. It's I kind of think of it as a personal attack, and it's just.
I would actually even hesitate to say borderline vindictive.
I wouldn't hesitate.
Yeah.
Okay, can we just vote on this?
Yeah. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor of recommending against approval?
Aye.
6-0. All right, Article 28, citizen petition, a proposed use of historic Adams House at 101 Mill Road, Chelmsford.
Thought we sent that back.
Is this
Still on here?
still on?
It's still happening?
We have to keep on the warrant what was submitted at the time the warrant was signed.
Yeah.
And as you heard the other evening, they've changed what they do.
Right, and now it doesn't technically need to be something voted on, because it can go
Well, it
to,
depends what I don't know what they intend to do between now and town meeting.
All right, but
but based on what they
Can they
changed
withdraw
when
it?
Yeah, they can withdraw the article.
It can
they
be,
didn't withdraw it.
it can't be withdrawn until town meeting.
They notified anybody they're withdrawing the article.
Okay.
I
And based on
believe-
the change, I'm sorry, and based on the changes when they came here, Paul,
Yeah.
it's not something that needs to be voted on by town meeting, it just goes to Board of
Advisory
Selectmen.
vote at town meeting.
Right,
We've seen
okay.
that in the past.
Yeah, and I think that when the presenter left, he said he did want an advisory vote on this. That was his intention. He did not intend to withdraw this article.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think we need to take action on it. I quite frankly don't think there's anything that we can add to this conversation that's gonna be worth merit, although we could recommend one way or the other. It's up to the purview of the committee.
I mean, I think we have to do something, it does have a financial consequence.
It certainly does have financial consequence, yeah.
So I think we have to do something. I think if it comes and they say, what does the finance committee recommend, and if we say we didn't do anything on this one, I think that all hell might break loose. So,
You have a valid point.
so I think we need to do something.
Well,
I'm not even sure how to craft a motion for this, though.
because we're in the same situation, we are unsure what the final product is gonna be,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
We're unsure of the details of how this would work out. I mean, there was some discussion about the lady paying and whatever.
Right, but I don't even know if they're gonna know by town meeting.
I'm gonna have to qualify,
Can we
when I
discuss
make
it
my,
before-
when I'm asked for a recommendation, I'm gonna have to qualify the recommendation stating that based upon what is published in the warrant article,
Right.
the committee votes
This way.
this way.
All right, so then we need to, I think the motion needs to be based on what is published in the warrant article.
So what's,
So what's posted in the warrant article is this.
Thank you.
It's a proposed use of the historic Adams House at 101 Mill Road to see if the town will vote to approve the use of the historic Adams House at 101 Mill Road as an inn to be called the Historic Adams Country Inn of Chelmsford, which, so the article would change the name to that and make it an inn. The country inn would bring a continual flow of revenue to the town. It's just the description. The small inn would be ideal for Federal House, which has been so it's basically supporting the article without actually being warrant article language. A colonial inn will emphasize special foods, recipes, and decor.
This is all just a description.
It's all this is a description of what the inn would be,
But,
and what its
no,
goal.
no, the inn will, no.
No, an inn will align perfectly with the historic mill stream and will help the town restore and preserve its very rich history regarding the Adams family.
Again, description.
So really, we can't really vote on any of that.
Except the
So
second.
all we can really vote on is to see if the town will vote to approve the use of the historic Adams House at 101 Mill Road as an inn, to be called the Historic Adams Country Inn of Chelmsford. That's the only real thing we can vote on, because everything else is just conjecture and description of what the inn is.
But that's, to me, that's sufficiently vague. I don't know what I'm voting on still. Is it and that the town is running?
Well, that's what I was trying to say.
And that's why
the
we had
other
such a
day,
long
like last
conversation
week.
on it.
Yeah. But when we brought that up last week, that's when he changed course and said, no,
Right.
that's not what we're saying.
So,
Which would imply that that's what they were saying.
Right,
is.
that's what it sounded like to me.
So
They're
what-
forcing us to be innkeepers.
Right.
but that's what initially what they were saying, and that's what the presentation that was provided by Joan Paley, who used to live at the property, was stating. The initial intention was for the town to run this as an inn, and for funds to be appropriated in order to do so, to do a various number of improvements and changes to the property. And I think you all saw it. It was like a page long of improvements that would have
No,
to
I
be done
saw
at the
that.
property.
But for the record though, Miss Paley, is that, I'm sorry, is that her last name, Paley?
Paley. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I think that's
Miss
it.
Paley, is she a resident of Chelmsford?
No,
She's not.
she is not.
Okay.
So it's Brian Latina's petition, but he's
Right, I understand
enlisted her help in what she would like the envision to be. So what he left here that night saying is that they're asking for the sale of the property to be postponed until the fall, to see if there's enough time to find either the money to fund them themselves or to find a buyer for the property that would run it as an inn. And the general consensus is, based upon the current description from this building inspector, that it could be run as an inn because it could technically be a boarding house the way it's currently described, and therefore there's no issue that needs to be addressed as far as a zoning change, although that could not be done here anyway because it's not presented in the warrant article. That really what they're looking for is a stay of execution on the sale of the property until such time as they've either raised enough money. Well, I mean, but that's what they're looking for. I'm trying to describe what they're trying to do.
That's not what's
But that's
written.
not what we have in front of us.
All
And
right,
we don't
so-
know what they're
So
gonna
it's
decide.
not our job to put a name on this.
Correct.
Right, or to like
Vote recommend
codify and
or
edify,
for or against.
clarify it, because they're the
That's their
presenter and they
job.
can't do any of those things.
All right, so then I make a recommendation that we don't vote on this. Motion.
We
Can
have
can I
to
do a
vote.
motion?
No, and that's the problem, but initially I said we take no action. The problem is,
You have
as
to.
Amina stated, we kind of have to. This does have financial implications.
No, this warrant, the way it's written, is just changing the name.
No, it's
No, it's
not.
propose a use for.
Proposing use of it as an inn.
Right.
So it's still not clear
Right. Which is why we're
what
probably
that
not
would
gonna vote
what that
for it.
would
but it-
accomplish. It's still not clear what that would accomplish. I think they're looking at this as sort of an advisory opinion, in which case they're saying,
But
do
you're
you
also-
support this because our goal is to stay the execution and maybe cover the carrying costs of the summer while we try to figure this out. And what they could do is just bring this to the Board of Selectmen and ask them to wait on selling it
Yeah.
until the fall, which I think is the
right,
proper
let's-
course of action.
but-
Alright.
Yeah, all right, so can we make a motion so we
So
can stop talking?
what I
about
would,
it?
yeah,
So let's make a motion in
I would love that.
the negative,
So,
because what we're saying is,
not
Recommend against approval.
against
Right.
approval.
okay, I will make a motion recommending non-approval,
Recommending against approval.
thank you, recommending against approval of Article 28, the proposed use of the historic Adams House as an inn, and information as presented.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
No.
All those in favor of the motion?
Negative,
Aye.
yes.
Aye.
Yeah,
Negative,
yeah.
I
it's
vote as a
nothing.
no vote.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
So no, mine too.
Article 29,
Jeez. Louise.
bylaw amendment, Disabilities Commission, large font menus.
Oh, my God.
I see this is your first set of voting, Dave.
Well, I'm the senior in the group, you know?
This is 9:43. I have flown through these.
Last year we were about
We were here at 11:30 last
All
year.
right, all right,
Yeah.
come on, let's go.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'll
Can't talk
make
until she does.
You can make a motion. You don't have to have her do
I
it.
thought it's
No
her
snapping
job.
your fingers.
Okay, I'll make a motion that, I'm gonna do this in the positive. I'll make a motion that we approve, to recommend approval of Article 29, large print menus as submitted.
Do I have a second for discussion?
Second.
Discussion.
I'm gonna say I'd be happy if I needed a menu to be presented larger print. I don't think it's a great thing for small businesses to be required to do so, especially with the change of the menus. It's a nice idea, I'm sorry, but I'm not in favor of it.
It's government overreach.
I agree,
It's
Dave.
just-
Yeah,
Ditto.
There's just
Yeah.
no need to do this.
I agree with Dave.
I agree.
My main concern when they came before us is they didn't. First of all, they started out with a braille menu and they switched to large font. There was no real guidance as to who this is going to apply to, when it was going to apply, how it's going to apply, and when it was going to change.
Right, like we kind of discussed, does Dunkin' Donuts, like, are they
Yeah,
required
yeah,
to
yeah.
do it, like,
They
or?
were like anyone had, so like Zesties, like all those, all those takeout places that
And
have
you know,
the
and
menus.
and it's up to them to, if they want the business from the seniors, they need to make it easy for the
Right.
seniors to buy from them.
Yes. No, I agree.
And shame on the businesses that
Shame on
don't.
the businesses. They should be doing this voluntarily if they want the seniors' business, but for the government to require it, I agree with Dave. I think
And
it's.
there's a reason for the Disabilities Acts, and it's to prevent people from saying, I don't care.
But if the
However, this situation is a little different.
Yeah.
There's not clear guidance in this. It's very, very simple. I think it was made simple intentionally so there could be further discussion as to how they apply it. But as it's currently written, I can't in good conscience support it because it's not clear what they're trying to accomplish. I think it's just saying, we want everyone to be required to carry these menus. And
Well, I mean, I understand why they're doing it.
I
I understand their intent.
but their
and-
implementation is not there.
No, the
And-
execution is.
What they kept saying, and what David Hassan kept saying while he was here, was that, those big chains, they send them off and they get them produced a dime a dozen. That's great. We have a lot of small businesses in town that this would apply to, and they really didn't have an answer for that.
Cafe 12, they don't have menus. It's written on a chalkboard.
Yeah,
So now you're telling them they have to go out and have menus printed?
and they changed their menu
They
a
do,
lot.
a lot.
Yeah.
Just have to print it larger on them.
Well, the wall's only so big, Dave. It's gonna be.
Now.
I like to see the sandwiches go around the corner.
We're getting a little punchy here.
All right, so we have to withdraw.
Should I withdraw that motion?
I'll entertain a motion to withdraw.
I make a motion to withdraw my previous motion.
I
Second.
second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend against approval of Article 29 as presented.
I second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0 against the article.
I have a quick question before we move on to the next one.
Mhm.
Because this is the first time that I've done this where we actually did against approval. All of the other ones were approval, and then like there were votes yay or nay, and it was, the numbers. When it comes and they ask us, what is the finance committee's recommendation? What
So
is your wording?
So I've actually done this before, and we have had instances where we recommend against approval of an article.
Right.
And so what I say is, in that instance, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends against approval.
Okay, and do you emphasize the against so everyone can hear that?
I do.
So when they hear unanimous, they don't think it's that,
I don't think I have a problem with being loud or
no,
enunciating,
no, I know,
but
I'm
yes.
I'm just asking, right, okay.
But then it's in the book, too.
It's in the book, too.
It's-
Okay, but that assumes people are reading the book.
Well, that's a big assumption.
Yeah.
If it was printed bigger.
Right?
Whoa, come on, guys, come on. Let's keep it PG. No,
Imagine if we were at 11 o'clock doing this.
but that's how I do it, or how Anita will do it if I don't show up.
Okay. All right, thank you, I was just curious. Sorry to delay.
No, that's fine.
All right.
So
Where are we?
Article 30, bylaw amendment for Disabilities Commission concerning blue painted accessible parking spaces.
I would make a motion that we vote for approval of recommend approval for Article 30 for the handicap parking of Chapter 174 of the Code of the Town of Chelmsford by adding a paragraph D, subparagraph 2, as outlined.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
I think this one's a no-brainer.
Of course it is, especially when they confirmed it would be for when they're repainting.
Yes,
Right,
that was
we
the
don't
key
have
to
to go
me.
around
That
and
was the
do
key
it.
for me too.
Right, yeah.
If everyone had to go out today and go and do
No, then
this.
that would be different.
Would be
That would,
different.
that would be like the menus.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
This is when you're doing it, put the blue square down. It's not even the whole space.
Right, it's just a
Quite
blue
frankly,
square.
I think they should paint the whole space blue.
Yes.
That way, when I'm driving by it, I go, crap, I can't park there.
Right.
Instead of having to look for the blue square.
Right.
But
Yeah, I just think it's a no-brainer.
it just doesn't make sense not to support the
I
square.
agree, I agree.
Any other further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0?
Yes.
And right, last but not least, Article 31, street acceptances.
Okay, I would make a motion that we recommend approval of Article 31 for approving the streets as listed.
Second.
Discussion. No, pretty self-explanatory, they do this every year, it's on the list, makes sense, we get money back when they do this. Let's continue the process, especially for roads like Lock Road, or Park Road.
I'm sure this came up and I just don't recall. There's 50 or so of these. Why don't we just do them all at once? What's the downside of that?
Because it's a process that they have to go through with making sure that all the permits are closed out, that they properly papered everything and submitted the applications.
So it just takes
And so it
time.
takes time.
Okay, got it,
So
thanks.
that's why the states put this together, so they're planning it for a few years.
Did he say how many streets remain?
I have written down about 50. But a lot of them are short.
Yeah, and they become a little bit more hard to track down.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember why we were waiting.
So that's why I
That's it.
think from like a paperwork, it just takes
Yep.
more investigation on their end.
Okay.
So in chunks, so they do it in batches.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
That makes sense.
But I
That's why
asked
they're
the same
doing it,
question.
and every time we do it, we increase the money we get back for chapter 90 funds, yes, thank
Okay.
you. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
6-0. All right, moving right along in our agenda. Discuss schedule for budget book preparation, review, and production. So Pam, what is our publication date? What is our drop dead deadline for publication? We don't want to hit it, but I want to know where it is.
I have finalizing the book April 6th to the 9th and delivering it to the printer April 10th.
Oh wow, we've got time.
Yeah.
I can take like a week writing this thing, or more.
So you should have given him a sooner.
You should have given me a sooner deadline
You
there.
know, like when you have a friend who's always an hour late, you always tell them when something's happening an hour sooner.
No, I know.
Your date for the letter is above that.
I don't have the so the reason why I'm asking, yeah, we're way ahead of where we were last year.
Yeah.
Because the town meeting falls the latest possible date, whereas last year
Yeah.
was the earliest.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of meetings where we didn't hold meetings because of snow.
And we didn't come for vacation, we didn't do vacation.
We didn't do vacation meeting, yeah, so I don't have the list in front of me, that's why I'm asking, Pam. So what do you have on there for review of the chairman's letter?
The 26th, but honestly, it doesn't need to be that early.
Okay.
Because I just slapped it.
26th next Wednesday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
It's not gonna happen.
yeah, it doesn't really need to be. I haven't even started, to be honest.
That's fair.
So I'm not even thinking about the
And
letter.
guys, what we want to do is we want to get as much information in the appendices as possible. So if what we received for your different presentations may have come in a form that's not easily publishable, can you reach out to your respective people and just let them know? Although that's not really for any of these budgets. So it's more me. I will reach out and for any presentation work that Pam doesn't already have in a form that's easily added to the book. I do know we added Neshoba a good portion last year just for transparency purposes. Again, I hate that word.
I think people liked it.
They did like
Yeah,
it.
they did, yeah.
My goal is to include as much information as possible into this book without being overly burdensome, because that way, quite frankly, we don't get asked why the information wasn't available. So,
Okay, I just should point out, last fall, because of all the add-ons we put in, the price of each book was like $1 or so more.
Oh,
Because
wow.
they had to bind it a different way.
They had to bind a different way.
About that.
no, okay, that's good to know.
Transparency is expensive.
It can be.
Yes, doing the right thing is never cheap.
No, it's not. Good to know. Plus that extra glossy paper was really nice. No, there's a reason why we don't have name tags. They're expensive. I don't think we should pay for those. Okay, so I want to include as much. Well, let me ask this. I want to try to hit where we were last year this time, as far as cost is concerned. Did they have to bind that one a different way? Do you recall?
I don't know the names of them, saddle stitch, I think is one of them. The old way used to be just like 2 or 3 staples along the center.
Yeah.
This time, because it was bigger, it was like nicely bound, like almost a little book.
Okay.
And they called me after I had delivered it, when it was in, I had nothing to say but go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
What was I gonna do, come back and try to get
You could have
stuff
told me to
taken out?
cut something out. Yeah.
Well, they were already mid.
No.
Printing, I'm like, forget it,
Yeah, just do it. Did they have to do anything differently last spring? I guess that's my question.
No,
Okay, so I'll try to follow what we did last year as far as what we included
yeah,
in that way, because I did cut out certain things we just didn't need from some of the presentations.
yeah, I think it was all the presentations we stuck at the end.
We had a lot of presentations this fall,
Did it.
and people wanted to see them, and that's why they went in there, especially with all the marijuana articles and everything like that. The Roberts Field was a big one. So I'll try to, if everyone can take a look at the book from last year and try to look at what we included last year. I think it was a happy medium. People did appreciate what was in there. If we can try to mirror that again, I will try to keep my letter around the same length as it was last year. I think it was like 10 pages, 8 pages, thereabouts. I took a look the other day. Actually started it already. We'll try to go forward with that. So that's the plan. I will try to get my letter out so people have enough time to review and add where they see fit. In the past, I've said if you want to write about a section, they certainly can. I believe I asked Anita if she wanted to write about the speeding last year, and she never actually got me her notes, so I wrote it myself. So I'm not going to ask for any.
See, the new guys don't know what the joke.
I'm not going to ask for any specific. She has a lead foot, and she
And
voted
she
against.
admits it in front of the chief of police.
And she
like, all
voted
the time.
against
It's
the
She voted
change.
against the-
Oh, the lowering speed.
Yeah, so I would have had to be publicly shamed on, because that was.
Exactly.
Right, because there would have been potential financial consequences.
Well, you got tickets.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. No, we were going to make a pretty penny off of her. So, if you feel like you'd like to contribute to something, feel free to. Let me know. Because what I do and what I've done the last couple of years is really do a quick explanation of each article. Because the chairman letter used to be just here's our presentation and take a look. And I don't want that to be the case. I want there to be at least some explanation as to why we voted the way we voted, because not everybody pays attention. Not everybody watches our meetings. Not everyone attends our meetings, as you can plainly see. So it's good to get out there so there aren't as many questions or many concerns people might have about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So you feel free to contribute. I ask and I encourage.
Will you send it out before you go to public, so
Yeah.
we can add comments
Yep.
or something too?
No, that's my goal, to get it out for review and so you can take a look at it. So that's really, I think, Pam, we want to try to get it a couple days before our deadline, obviously, so we aren't scrambling at the end and you aren't running to the printer like you usually do.
Yeah, that,
I'm sure she'd like a leisurely
finalizing the books. April 6th is the first of the little.
Okay, let's shoot for April 6th, so that we can get it done sooner rather than later and get that book out there. Any old business? Hearing none. Any new business?
I wanted to bring up, in light of, kind of what's been going on with the school committee and email requests and stuff like that, we don't have town emails. We all have our personal emails. Can we get issued town emails, so then when we're I think we should, being on the committee, when we're corresponding, should use the town email.
If you'd like, we can have you all sign town emails. Usually it's your first initial, your last name, and town@chelmsford.us.
I
No,
mean,
we just want, like a.
Can we discuss it before we decide as a board?
yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
It's an idea. I don't think, I think it's a different beast with the school committee and with the
Right.
board of selectmen, because they have so much information that's going to them. And the whole kind of reason behind having a town email is so that all that information is coming from that one location. And quite frankly, it's easier to do a public records request, if someone believes that there might be a violation of open meeting law, which is the goal
No,
of
I understand that.
public records request. If there's no violation of open meeting law, and I would like to be very candid and assure everyone there is no violation with what we do, because what our communications are as the law provides. It is to notify of scheduling and of meetings and to transfer information without discussion. And that's what the open meeting law states. If we had a discussion, and we had a discussion with a quorum, we would have to bring that printed email forward as something that was not presented for open meeting, and to discuss it in open meeting, to correct the error in violation of the open meeting law. So that's what really that kind of email protects against. I don't see anything inherently wrong with us having that email. I'm just not sure if it's necessary.
Well, from a legal perspective, being the lawyer at the table, the fact that we're all using our personal, or in some instances, I use my business email. Should someone feel that in some way we might not have done everything above board and wants to see, or in some way subpoena our emails, that means that they could potentially get all of our personal emails and all of my work emails, which yours would be potentially privileged.
Well, I don't use my work email first and foremost.
I do, but mine are privileged.
Yeah, well, mine are.
But mine do contain a lot of people's personal information as an accountant, so to me, there's a concern of potential.
So it would be up to the keeper of records for the town that is in charge of reviewing emails to determine what is a public communication which should be presented for review in a public records request. So there would be someone that would be looking at the emails to
Yeah.
determine whether or not
And I've got
there is
people's
something.
social security numbers and
Yeah.
things like that in mind because they send me their documents. So to be quite honest, just from that perspective, and in my personal emails, if they go through those, they're going to find stuff for my daughter's IEP, which, with doctors and stuff. So I would actually prefer, if, just given that that's even a possibility, that we have some sort of avenue for us to communicate that is very clear, it is just for this committee.
And it'll be the sole source of communication that we
It'll be the sole
use
source
for
of
that
communication.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Just
if,
from that
for,
perspective, Jen,
in an abundance of caution, yeah, that would be the way to do it.
If
And
it's
if
an- if
it's
it's-
not a burden on the town
Right,
to
that's
do
my
so,
idea.
then maybe that's the best course of action. And anyone else want to weigh in on that?
Would this be, is this like an OWA, Outlook, web, how do we get the email?
You'd be assigned an email account with the town@chelmsford.us account, then you could add it as one of your addresses in your.
Outlook,
Yeah, and
mail,
Outlook and
anything.
all of that
Any of
stuff.
your mail, whatever mail client.
Whatever mail system you use, you can add it.
You'll just give us directions on how to do
You'll give us
that.
directions, right?
That's on my phone.
Yep,
Is it web-based?
yeah.
Yeah, it's web-based.
Yeah.
But I could add it to my Outlook, right?
And I could add it to my Apple Mail, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pop account on an IMAP account, so it would be.
You would send us directions, correct?
And then if there were to be a public record request, they would be requesting, because we would only, in that instance,
Yeah.
I would recommend, and that it should be our policy, that we only use that email for any discussions for finance committee. Then, if there ever were a public request, it would be strictly for that email address.
Yeah.
And
I
there
think
wouldn't- there wouldn't
every
be an issue.
department should be doing that.
If it would go through our IT department,
Yeah.
they would pull the.
They would be able to pull
Yeah.
it straight from there.
Yeah.
So that might be the better course of valor. Like I said,
But only for this, I think just given what's been going on.
given all the record requests are being made, yes,
Yes,
that's
but I
true.
also think that we need to make it very clear that we all agree that these are emails that we only use for finance committee business.
Well, definitely, that would be the only reason why we would use them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose.
It defeats the purpose,
Yeah.
correct, yes. But I felt it needed to be out there.
Well, because I know other committees, people use their personal email for committee business as well,
Right,
and
yeah.
that's causing all these problems, so.
Or they use the business for other things as well.
All the schools have email addresses to the school system.
Right.
Yeah.
The selectmen all have them, and one chooses not to, but it's the same thing. But then what happens is if they use it outside of that, they communicate, then that's when you get into the.
Right,
That situation, yeah.
Just for the record, when you join up for the school committee, when you go to the school committee 101 class, that's the first thing they say to you, always use your
Or
school committee.
committee email, right.
Yeah.
So when
Oh,
we're,
so when you're not, I'm sorry, okay, sorry.
thank you.
Let's avoid extraneous discussion.
But anyway,
about that.
Thank you.
I do think I'm fine with that. I do think it's a shame that we even have to worry about it.
I
Well,
agree-
I
I agree
think
with
that's
you.
where that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's
It's fine,
because
but
it's
it's
fine
a
to do
shame.
it. It's sad that we have to do. We
Yes.
feel like we need to do that, because it really it's only in instances where there's been a violation of or a alleged violation of open meeting law, and I don't think that I know that hasn't taken place.
Really, we actually don't communicate very much. It's just like
No, we
this
really
is-
don't.
we're
We
real
hate
like-
each other. We don't talk a lot.
This is our agenda. These are the documents.
Right.
No, I understand what
That's,
you're saying. Yeah. Any further discussion? I don't think we need to take a vote on this, but we
No,
can.
but I felt it just needed to be something that we discussed, didn't just say, yes, we'll do it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. If the town is okay with us doing that, then should I send an email to Ted or?
No, John,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
it works with John.
Really?
It's that, departments working well together.
How about that? All right. So, any further new business? Public comment. Our public left us.
Yeah, apparently we weren't excited.
No press questions either. They're all over at the debate tonight. If that's the case, I will entertain a motion. Oh wait, before we do, thank you all for this budget season, and thanks again to our 2 new members. You did a fine job jumping straight into budget season, which is a fun thing to do.
Baptism by fire.
Baptism by fire. And just a reminder that we have 3 warrant articles that we will most likely be voting on the night of town meeting, so be prepared for an email from me around that time, posting an agenda, and we'll look at those 3 at that point.
So what's the normal game plan is we meet about a half hour to an hour before it begins, correct?
We probably won't need any more than a half hour.
Okay.
So we'll probably either 45 minutes or a half hour before schedule the meeting. It won't be televised, it'll be publicly noticed, however. We run through our 3 articles and we head upstairs.
Okay.
And it's not unusual. This happens a lot.
Right, yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.